In the deepest corners of our world lie secrets that have defied time itself. Ancient relics, inscriptions, and structures that should not exist. What if some of humanity's oldest mysteries are not just puzzles, but remnants of a forgotten truth, waiting to be uncovered? From the deserts of Palestine to the dense jungles of Central America, there are artifacts that challenge everything we know about history. What did the ancients know that we don't? And why have these enigmas, steeped in shadows, survived for thousands of years? Join us as we unravel the bizarre archaeological mysteries that will leave you questioning everything. In the rolling hills of southern Sweden, nestled beside a calm bay, lies the forgotten site of Sandby Borg, an ancient hill fort whose very name evokes silence. Once a thriving settlement over 1,000 years ago, it now lies eerily still, the stone walls partially collapsed, the traces of its former life obscured by time. But beneath its weathered exterior, a chilling story remains locked within the stones. The fort was built sometime around the 5th century AD, during a time when the world was in transition, and tribal societies were at the cusp of a new era. This was a world on the edge of change, bordering the end of the Roman Empire and the rise of the medieval kingdoms. Yet Sandby Borg was not destined to be a peaceful place. It is here, in this unassuming location, that an atrocity occurred, one that still baffles archaeologists and historians alike. In the year 500 AD, something horrific happened within the walls of this fort. The bodies of 26 individuals, men, women, and children, were found in a state so unusual it left even seasoned archaeologists with more questions than answers. These people were not killed in battle. There were no signs of an external attack, no defensive breach. Instead, they were found lying where they had fallen, their bodies as they were in life, without a trace of struggle. No weapons had been used. There was no sign of violence at first glance. And yet, all of them were dead. The manner of death is perplexing. The bodies were discovered in places where people would have lived, inside their homes, near the hearth, in open courtyards. There were no signs of a fight, no obvious cause of death like wounds or burns. It was as if the life of the settlement had simply been extinguished in an instant. Initially, archaeologists speculated that the massacre might have been the result of a raid. Raiders from a distant tribe, perhaps. But as they dug deeper into the evidence, a more unnerving theory began to emerge. There were no signs of anyone from outside the fort. No traces of foreign weapons, tools, or invaders' belongings were found. It was as though the people of Sandby Borg had been murdered by someone inside their own walls. There were no signs of resistance, no alarms raised. It was an insular, precise, and quiet death. Some researchers believe that a sudden internal uprising or a betrayal might explain what happened. But why would an entire community all at once fall victim to such violence? The fact that this massacre was so sudden, an event that wiped out the entire fort's population, raises even more unsettling questions. Could it have been the result of an internal power struggle? Or something even more sinister, a sacrifice or ritual meant to appease the gods of the time? Then there is the discovery of a curious detail. Some of the bodies were found in positions of calm, as if they had not been surprised by their death. One woman was even found with a necklace still intact, undisturbed. Could the residents of Sandby Borg have known what was coming? Was it a planned event, or something beyond their understanding? For years, archaeologists and historians have considered various theories, but none have fully explained the massacre. Some suggest that the event might have been an act of ritualistic sacrifice, perhaps linked to the collapse of the Roman Empire and the upheaval of religious practices. Others wonder if a strange disease or poison might have quickly wiped out the inhabitants in a silent, insidious manner. Perhaps it was a brutal act of political power, a way to eliminate an entire community in one fell swoop, but without the chaos of an external attack. There is one detail, however, that keeps the mystery alive. The bodies were left where they fell. No one attempted to bury them. No attempt was made to cleanse the site. This was not the typical burial practice of the time, where remains were laid to rest with rituals, or at least hidden away from the elements. Instead, the bodies were simply left behind, scattered throughout the fort as if the very act of living had been halted in an instant. So, what really happened at Sandby Borg? Was it an act of violence from an enemy tribe, or was it a more personal betrayal? Was it a sacrifice to the gods, or something even darker, a mass murder carried out by the hands of the community itself? Today, Sandby Borg stands as a haunting reminder of a past left unexplained. The silence of its walls is heavy with unanswered questions, and as we continue to search for clues, we are left with the most chilling realization of all. Some mysteries, no matter how much we dig, might never be solved. What or who was responsible for the massacre at Sandby Borg, and more importantly, what secrets are still hidden beneath its stones, waiting to be uncovered? The wind whispers across Cairnpapple Hill, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and ancient stones. Situated on a remote hilltop in central Scotland, Cairnpapple is not just a scenic landscape, it is an archaeological enigma, a site that has stood the test of time for thousands of years. As the clouds shift overhead and the rolling hills stretch out below, the eerie silence of this place invites you to ponder the secrets it may still be holding. At first glance, Cairnpapple Hill appears to be just another forgotten place in the British countryside. But when you look closer, you see that this hill was once a hub of activity, a ceremonial center, and a focal point of life and death for ancient peoples who lived long before recorded history. The site is believed to have been in use from around 3000 BC during the Neolithic period, a time when monumental structures were being built across the British Isles, structures that were designed not just for everyday life, but for something far more profound. Cairnpapple is home to one of the most intriguing prehistoric settlements in the British Isles, a hilltop that once held a complex network of ritual sites, enclosures, and burial chambers. The most striking feature of the site is its large circular platform, a structure that seems both deliberate and purposeful, carefully constructed with stones that have been placed with remarkable precision. This platform, which is thought to have been used for ceremonial purposes, looks out over the surrounding landscape, offering a view that seems designed to make one feel small in the face of the vastness of the earth below. Beneath the platform lies an array of burial chambers, where the remains of the ancient people who inhabited the site were interred. The stones of these chambers, arranged in a way that suggests both reverence and care, form the foundation of the mystery that surrounds Cairnpapple. What was it about this place that made it so significant to the people of the Neolithic period? What beliefs and practices shaped the construction of these structures? And, perhaps most pressing of all, why was it that these people felt compelled to create a site of such great scale in such an isolated location? The archaeological evidence suggests that Cairnpapple Hill was not just a settlement or a place of worship. It was a ceremonial center, a site where life and death converged. This is evident in the complex arrangement of the burial chambers, the alignment of the stones, and the deliberate placement of various features of the site. But what is most puzzling is the manner in which these structures were used and the way they were abandoned. Cairnpapple Hill seems to have been occupied over a long period of time, with evidence of activity spanning from the early Neolithic through to the early Bronze Age. During this time, the site appears to have been a place of constant renewal. Rituals and ceremonies conducted on the platform, offerings placed in the burial chambers, and the dead carefully laid to rest in accordance with ancient rites. But at some point, the people who once populated this hilltop vanished, leaving behind nothing but the stones and the silence. No records remain, and no clear explanation has ever been found for why the site was abandoned. There are many theories about the site's purpose and the reasons for its abandonment. Some suggest that Cairnpapple Hill was a center for ancestor worship, a place where the living could connect with their deceased relatives and honor their memory through ritual. The circular platform, with its commanding view of the surrounding landscape, might have served as a place where the living communicated with the dead, or perhaps made offerings to unseen gods or spirits. Others speculate that the site was a gathering point for communities, a place of celebration and social cohesion, where people from surrounding settlements came together to perform rites and rituals. These ceremonies may have marked the changing seasons, the cycles of life, or important milestones in the lives of individuals or communities. However, there is one theory that stands apart from the rest, a theory that suggests the site may have had an astronomical function. Some researchers believe that the alignment of the stones at Cairnpapple Hill could have been designed to track celestial events, such as the rising and setting of the sun, the movement of the stars, or the phases of the moon. This theory proposes that the platform, with its sweeping view of the sky, was a place of observation, where ancient peoples connected with the cosmos and marked the passage of time through the movement of heavenly bodies. But while these theories offer tantalizing glimpses into the purpose of Cairnpapple Hill, they do little to explain why the site was abandoned so suddenly and so completely. What could have prompted the people who once revered this place to leave it behind without a trace? Was it a shift in religious or cultural practices, a change in political power or social organization, or perhaps a more mysterious force, one that still remains hidden beneath the earth? It is important to note that the evidence from Cairnpapple Hill suggests that the site was not abandoned due to any external threat. There are no signs of invasion or destruction. In fact, the site seems to have been left intact, as if its inhabitants simply chose to stop using it and moved on to other places. This raises even more questions. Was there some event, a catalyst of some kind, that caused the people to abandon their most sacred site, or did they simply evolve beyond the need for such a place? The abandonment of Cairnpapple remains as much of a mystery as its construction. As archaeologists continue to study the site, new discoveries are made and new theories are proposed. But the enigma of Cairnpapple Hill persists, its secrets buried beneath layers of stone and time. The more we uncover, the more questions arise. Why was this hilltop chosen as a site for such a monumental settlement? What did it mean to the people who built it and to those who came after them? And what did they leave behind, intentionally or otherwise, that still awaits discovery? Cairnpapple Hill stands today as a testament to the ancient peoples who once called it home. It is a place of mystery, where every stone tells a story, and every unanswered question invites us to look deeper. What or who was this place truly meant for? And in the silence of its abandoned platform, what still lies hidden, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered? As we leave the windswept hills of Cairnpapple, we turn our gaze southward, across the Mediterranean Sea, to the sun-drenched island of Majorca. Here, on the island's rugged terrain, lies another ancient mystery, one that, like Cairnpapple, speaks of a forgotten civilization that left behind monumental structures, but whose story remains shrouded in silence. On the western edge of the island, nestled among the hills near the village of Alaor, is the Talayotic settlement of Fornés. This archaeological site, like many others in the Mediterranean, holds the promise of revealing something extraordinary, a glimpse into the lives of a people who flourished here long before the rise of Rome. The island was once home to a mysterious culture known as the Talayotic people, who left behind stone towers, or taulas, and enigmatic settlements built with impressive precision. Fornés, one of the most well-preserved of these sites, offers a tantalizing window into the past. Fornés is not a sprawling city, but rather a compact, intricate settlement. Spread out across the landscape, It reveals a series of interconnected stone structures, courtyards, and tall circular towers known as talayots. These towers, built using the dry stone technique, stand like silent sentinels, watching over the valley below. Their purpose has long been debated. Were they defensive structures, places of ritual, or perhaps a mixture of both? The settlement's layout suggests a careful design, one that may have been intended not only for practical purposes, but also for something more symbolic. The center of the settlement is dominated by a large rectangular space, likely used for communal gatherings or rituals. Surrounding this area, the talayots form a perimeter, their placement strategic, suggesting that the builders may have had a deep understanding of both architecture and astronomy. In addition to the talayots, there are the remains of what seem to be residential structures, once home to the island's inhabitants. These buildings, with their low stone walls and circular designs, suggest a people who lived close to the land, deeply embedded in the rhythms of nature. But it is the sheer scale and precision of their construction that raises questions. Why go to such lengths to build such enduring structures in this relatively small settlement? What was their purpose? One of the most puzzling aspects of Fornés is the seemingly deliberate nature of its design. The talayots are aligned with a sense of purpose that goes beyond mere functionalism. Some researchers suggest that these towers may have been used for astronomical observations, their placement and construction carefully calibrated to track the movement of the sun and stars. This idea is particularly compelling when one considers that many of the Talayotic settlements, including Fornés, are positioned in such a way that the rising sun during certain times of the year casts light on specific features of the structures, creating a dramatic visual effect. Could the Talayotic people have used the towers as early astronomical instruments, observing the heavens to mark important moments in the lunar or solar cycles? But the mysteries of Fornés go deeper still. While we have a good understanding of the basic architecture of the site and some insight into the social and ceremonial life of its inhabitants, many questions remain unanswered. There are signs of violent events in the settlement's history, charred remains of buildings, signs of destruction, but the full extent of these events is unclear. Did Fornés suffer from a violent conflict, or were these signs of ritual destruction, as some theorize? Was the settlement abandoned in a hurry, or was it a slow, gradual decline? These unanswered questions invite further investigation, but no definitive answers have emerged. Another curious aspect of Fornés is the presence of burial sites within the settlement. In some Talayotic sites, the dead were interred in small communal tombs beneath the buildings. At Fornés, however, the remains of individuals have been found in a manner that seems almost ritualistic. In some cases, the bones of the deceased were carefully arranged, sometimes accompanied by offerings or tools, suggesting that death was viewed not as an end, but as a transition to another stage of existence. The burial practices of the Talayotic people are an important clue in understanding their worldview, but the full meaning behind these rituals remains elusive. And then there are the talas, the megalithic stone structures found at Fornés and other Talayotic sites. These structures, typically made of two large vertical stones with a horizontal stone placed across the top, are thought to have served as places of ritual. Some believe they were used for religious ceremonies, perhaps associated with fertility or the worship of natural forces. However, the exact function of the talas remains speculative. Were they simply altars, or did they have a deeper, more complex role in Talayotic society? Some even suggest that the talas could have been symbols of power or authority, marking the presence of a ruling class or priestly order. What makes the mystery of Fornés so compelling is the combination of its stunningly preserved structures, its isolated location, and the complexity of the society that once inhabited the settlement. The Talayotic people were not an advanced civilization in the sense of monumental cities or written records, but their constructions and rituals suggest a deep connection to the land, the cosmos, and each other. The settlement's design, seemingly aligned with the movements of the sun and the stars, raises questions about their knowledge of the natural world. Did they possess an understanding of astronomy, or were they simply following traditions passed down through generations? Despite decades of excavation and research, the full picture of Fornés remains incomplete. What happened to the Talayotic people? Why did they build such complex, symbolic structures, and what did they hope to achieve with them? The abandonment of the settlement, like the other sites we've explored, remains shrouded in mystery. Did a cataclysmic event bring an end to their civilization, or was it the result of a slow, deliberate migration or cultural shift? The stones at Fornés stand as silent witnesses to the lives of a people who left no written record, no clear legacy, and yet built structures that have endured for millennia. As we continue to study this mysterious settlement, the questions only multiply. What remains buried beneath the stones? And what secrets do the Talas and Talayots still hold, waiting for someone to unlock their meaning? As we journey through the ancient landscapes of Majorca, we now turn our attention to a distant corner of the world, deep in the jungles of northeastern Brazil. It is here, amidst the vibrant yet untamed wilderness of the Ingá Valley, that an enigmatic artifact lies waiting to reveal its secrets. The Ingá Stone, an imposing, mysterious relic, rests quietly on a hillside, bearing carvings that seem to defy the passage of time, inviting all who encounter it to question the nature of its origin. The stone itself is a massive, flat monolith, measuring over 3 meters in length, covered in intricate carvings that stretch across its surface. The symbols etched into the stone are unlike any other found in the Americas. They resemble an almost script-like series of lines and geometric shapes, yet no one has been able to definitively decipher them. What makes the stone so perplexing is not just the complexity of its carvings, but the sheer mystery surrounding their meaning and who created them. The Ingá Stone was first discovered in the late 19th century, but it is believed to have been standing for millennia, long before European explorers set foot on the continent. Archaeologists have speculated that the markings may have been created by an ancient civilization that predated the indigenous cultures known to have inhabited Brazil. Some have suggested that the carvings could represent a form of written language, while others have wondered if they might serve as a map, a calendar, or even a record of an ancient event. Despite numerous attempts to interpret the symbols, the meaning of the carvings remains elusive. Some scholars believe that the stone could have been a form of communication, perhaps used to record important events or religious rituals. Others have suggested that the markings might represent a form of astronomical knowledge, possibly indicating the movement of celestial bodies or tracking the cycles of the sun and moon. In this sense, the Ingá Stone could be seen as an artifact that connects the ancient peoples of Brazil to the cosmos, a testament to their understanding of the natural world and its rhythms. But while these theories offer interesting possibilities, they do not provide a definitive answer. The question that persists, however, is far more profound. Who carved these symbols, and why? Were these the work of a long-lost civilization that once thrived in the region? Or could the Ingá Stone be the product of an entirely different culture, one that has left no other trace in the archaeological record? To complicate matters further, the location of the Ingá Stone adds another layer of intrigue. The site is situated deep within the Brazilian jungle, a place that is remote and difficult to access. The stone is not part of a larger settlement or city. It stands alone, hidden in the underbrush, as if deliberately left undisturbed for centuries. How did the people who created it even find their way to this isolated spot? Was this place of particular importance to them? perhaps a ceremonial or sacred site? One of the most compelling, albeit speculative, theories about the Ingá Stone involves its possible connection to ancient peoples from outside the Americas. Some have suggested that the stone's markings resemble those of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs or other Old World writing systems, leading to the theory that the stone might have been created by seafarers who arrived in the Americas long before Columbus. This theory posits that the carvings could be the result of transoceanic contact, a concept that has long been debated by scholars but remains largely unsupported by mainstream archaeology. Could the Ingá Stone be a remnant of a lost connection between distant civilizations? Another intriguing theory posits that the stone's carvings may be related to a much older indigenous tradition, one that could shed light on the forgotten cultures of pre-Columbian Brazil. This theory suggests that the markings could have been used as a form of storytelling or record-keeping, passed down through generations of native peoples. Perhaps the Ingá Stone is not just an artifact, but a link to the oral traditions of a people whose history was never written down, an artifact that, much like the symbols on its surface, carries with it an untold story of the past. Regardless of the theory, what remains undeniably clear is that the Ingá Stone is a deeply significant object. The sheer scale of its carvings, combined with the fact that it has remained relatively untouched for centuries, makes it a valuable artifact for understanding the ancient peoples of the region. Yet, despite its prominence in archaeological studies, the stone has not yielded any definitive answers. The mystery of its origin continues to spark debate, and no consensus has been reached regarding its true meaning. Perhaps what is most unsettling about the Ingá Stone is the silence it imposes upon us. The symbols on its surface speak in a language we do not understand, and the stone itself stands as a reminder of how little we truly know about the peoples who once inhabited this vast land. The ancient civilization that created it is unknown to us, leaving us to wonder what knowledge, wisdom, or events might have been captured on that stone. As we contemplate the mystery of the Ingá Stone, we are reminded that there are still many unanswered questions about the past. Ancient civilizations left behind their traces in the form of ruins, artifacts, and stories, but so much of their history remains locked away. What might still be hidden in the remote corners of the world, waiting for someone to uncover its secrets? Could the Ingá Stone be just one of many artifacts scattered across the globe that holds the key to a forgotten history? The questions persist, and the answers remain tantalizingly out of reach. The Ingá Stone, like so many ancient mysteries, continues to beckon us with its enigmatic carvings, inviting us to look closer, to search deeper, and to wonder what secrets it may still be hiding beneath its surface. Leaving the dense jungles of Brazil, we find ourselves in a different kind of mystery, one that stretches across the dry, open landscapes of southern Spain. Here, amidst the rolling hills of the Sierra de Alcaraz, sits the La Torre-La Janera megalithic site, a place that, like many ancient sites, has stood for millennia, its true purpose still largely unknown. The site is home to an intriguing collection of megalithic structures placed strategically across the terrain, their purpose and origins a puzzle that has long captured the imagination of archaeologists and historians alike. The site itself, though not as well known as other megalithic wonders, carries with it an undeniable sense of grandeur. At the heart of La Torre-La Janera is a series of monumental stone structures, large stones arranged in seemingly deliberate patterns, some standing upright as menhirs, others forming the outlines of structures that may have once held sacred significance. The scale of the site is remarkable, as the stones, though weathered by time, still retain their imposing presence, casting long shadows over the land as the sun sets behind them. There is something awe-inspiring about these ancient monoliths, as though they are remnants of a forgotten world that once existed, a world whose people understood something that we, even today, struggle to fully comprehend. At first glance, the site appears to be a typical example of a megalithic complex, with its stone circles, standing stones, and alignment with the natural landscape. Yet, as with many such sites, the questions surrounding La Torre-La Janera are not easily answered. The first thing that strikes you is the sheer age of the site. The stones here date back to at least the late Neolithic period, around 2500 BC, though some scholars speculate that the site may be even older. It is clear that these people, whoever they were highly skilled in stonework and had an intimate understanding of the landscape and the forces of nature. What is perhaps most intriguing about La Torre-La Janera is the arrangement of the stones. Unlike the more famous stone circles, like Stonehenge in England or the Carnac stones in France, the megaliths at La Torre-La Janera seem to form no obvious pattern. Some of the stones are arranged in rows, others in irregular clusters, and still others appear to be placed at random, as if they were deliberately scattered across the landscape. There are also several large stones, some standing vertically, others laying horizontally, that suggest the site may have had a functional purpose, perhaps as markers for ceremonial or ritualistic practices. But here lies the first mystery. What was the purpose of these stones? Some researchers believe that they were used as astronomical markers, their placement designed to track the movement of the sun or the stars. Similar megalithic sites across Europe have been found to align with the solstices, suggesting that the ancient peoples who built them were deeply attuned to the rhythms of the natural world. Could it be that the stones of La Torre-La Janera served a similar purpose? Were they part of a larger network of sacred sites designed to track celestial events? Or were they perhaps used for more practical purposes, such as marking territory, guiding travelers, or demarcating ritual spaces? Adding another layer of complexity to the site's mystery is the fact that there are several burial sites scattered throughout La Torre-La Janera, a feature that suggests the site may have had a dual purpose, both a ceremonial center and a place of death. The burials are typically simple, with the bodies laid to rest in shallow graves, accompanied by small offerings. These offerings, pottery, tools, and other artifacts, suggest that the people who used the site had a rich material culture, one that was deeply intertwined with their religious and social practices. However, despite these clues, there is no clear indication of how the site was used over time or why it was abandoned. Theories abound as to the possible functions of the site, but none offer definitive answers. Some believe that La Torre-La Janera was part of a larger network of megalithic sites, perhaps used by a specific tribe or cultural group whose identity remains lost to history. Others propose that the site served as a place for religious or astronomical rituals, its stones functioning as markers for sacred events or as part of a larger system of beliefs that connected the people to the cosmos. Some even suggest that the stones may have been used for more practical purposes, such as acting as territorial markers or boundary lines between different groups. However, the most intriguing theory, and one that remains speculative at best, suggests that the stones at La Torre-La Janera may be part of a larger, ancient tradition of stone construction that spanned across Europe and beyond. This theory, often referred to as the lost civilization hypothesis, posits that there was once a widespread culture or civilization that built megalithic sites like those at La Torre-La Janera, Stonehenge, and the pyramids of Giza, among others. According to this theory, these sites may have been part of a global network of ancient peoples who shared a common knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and ritual, passed down through generations. Could the people who built La Torre-La Janera have been part of such a civilization, one that left behind no written records, but whose influence can still be seen in the stone monuments they created? Of course, this remains highly speculative, and most scholars reject the idea of a lost global civilization. However, the fact that so many megalithic sites across Europe share similar features precise stonework, alignment with celestial events, and ritualistic uses, suggests that there may have been shared cultural and religious practices across ancient cultures, practices that we have yet to fully understand. Could the people of La Torre-La Janera have been part of this larger tradition, or were they isolated in their understanding of the world, relying on their own knowledge of the stars and earth to create their megalithic structures? Despite years of excavation and research, La Torre-La Janera continues to present more questions than answers. The precise function of the site, the identity of its creators, and the reasons for its eventual abandonment remain elusive. And as we continue to explore the site, we are left with the unsettling realization that some ancient mysteries may never be fully understood. What secrets still lie hidden beneath the stones of La Torre-La Janera? What stories have been lost to time, waiting for someone to uncover their meaning? As we stand before these ancient stones, their silent presence serves as a reminder of just how much of our past remains obscured. What do these stones reveal about the people who built them? And what, if anything, do they have to tell us about the world they lived in, and the world we are still trying to understand? As we step away from the shadow of La Torre-La Janera, our journey takes us to a more enigmatic and elusive corner of the ancient world, a place where the sands of time have concealed secrets for centuries. Nestled in the ancient hills of Greece, the Temple of Kardaki stands as a testament to a civilization whose practices and beliefs remain largely shrouded in mystery. Little is known about the temple itself, but what is clear is that its existence raises as many questions as it answers, and its very purpose challenges the conventional understanding of ancient religious architecture. The Temple of Kardaki is located on the remote island of Kythera, a place that has long been regarded as both a spiritual and strategic hub in the Mediterranean. Known in antiquity for its associations with both trade and divine worship, Kythera's rugged terrain has preserved many ancient sites, but none so elusive as the Temple of Kardaki. Though its exact origins remain unclear, the temple is believed to date back to the 6th century BC, a time when Greek religion was undergoing a transformation, and when the gods of the classical pantheon were becoming more firmly entrenched in the hearts of the people. The temple itself is relatively modest in size, but its location gives it an air of quiet power. Situated atop a hill overlooking the sea, it commands an expansive view of the surrounding landscape, with the Aegean stretching out toward the horizon. The temple is made of local stone, its architecture a blend of simplicity and sophistication. The columns, though partially ruined, still rise from the ground in a solemn, dignified manner, as if waiting for their true purpose to be understood. Yet, as striking as the structure is, it is the strange features of the temple, its design, its location, and its possible function, that have drawn the most attention. What makes the Temple of Kardaki particularly intriguing is the absence of detailed records. While the ruins themselves suggest that it was dedicated to a deity, likely one of the ancient Greek gods, there is no definitive evidence that can tell us exactly who that god was. Some suggest it was dedicated to a local or lesser-known deity, perhaps a goddess or god linked to fertility, maritime trade, or the island's early history. Others speculate that it could have been associated with the cult of Aphrodite, whose connections to Kythera are well documented, as the island was believed to be one of her sacred locations. The mystery deepens when we consider the temple's strange architectural features. The foundation of the building is not aligned in the typical manner one would expect for a Greek temple, particularly one constructed during this period. Most temples were aligned according to specific celestial events or landmarks, but Kardaki's layout does not seem to correspond with any astronomical or geographical pattern that we can clearly identify. Was it meant to align with a specific star or constellation? Was the layout symbolic, reflecting a deeper understanding of the cosmos that remains lost to us? Or was there a more practical reason for its orientation, perhaps related to the flow of water or the movement of the wind? The site has yet to reveal its full secrets, and these questions continue to puzzle archaeologists. One of the most tantalizing aspects of the Temple of Kardaki is the lack of any known inscriptions. While many ancient temples bore inscriptions detailing their dedications or the events held within, Kardaki's ruins are eerily silent in this regard. There are no records to explain the temple's purpose, no inscriptions to provide a clearer picture of its role in the religious or political life of ancient Greece. The absence of such records has left a void in our understanding, inviting speculation on what could have been lost. Was the temple deliberately left without markings, perhaps to keep its true purpose hidden from those who might seek to exploit it? Or was it simply the result of time's erasure, with the temple's original significance lost in the centuries that followed its abandonment? The scarcity of historical evidence regarding the temple has led to some more speculative theories, many of which suggest that the Temple of Kardaki could have had a purpose beyond the typical religious function. Some have suggested that it may have been a place of mystery rites, reserved for initiates of an esoteric cult whose teachings have not survived. Could the temple have been used to connect the living with the divine in a way that transcended the more common religious practices of the time? Was it part of an ancient tradition of secret knowledge, a place where sacred rituals took place under the cover of darkness, hidden from the eyes of outsiders? Another theory, though less widely accepted, posits that the Temple of Kardaki could have been connected to some form of ancient astronomical observation, perhaps an observatory for studying the heavens. Its location atop a hill with an unobstructed view of the horizon lends some weight to this theory, suggesting that the site could have been used to track celestial movements, an idea that is not entirely far-fetched when considering the advanced astronomical knowledge of the ancient Greeks. Could the temple's design have been meant to serve both a religious and scientific function, combining the study of the cosmos with the worship of the divine? Despite the numerous theories, the truth about the Temple of Kardaki remains elusive. Some believe the temple was part of a larger religious complex on Kythera, linked to other now-forgotten sites, while others argue that it was simply one of many isolated temples scattered throughout the ancient Greek world, built for purposes that were later obscured by the passage of time. Regardless of its true purpose, the temple's continuing mystery suggests that there may be aspects of ancient Greek religion and culture that we have yet to fully understand. The Temple of Kardaki stands today as a quiet monument to the past, its stones weathered and worn, its mysteries still hidden beneath the surface. As we examine the ruins, we are reminded that even the most ancient of structures can still harbor secrets waiting for someone to unlock them. What truths about the ancient Greeks, their gods, and their knowledge are buried within these walls? And more importantly, what might we still discover in the ruins of this elusive temple, waiting for the right question to be asked? The answers may be closer than we think, but until then, the mystery of the Temple of Kardaki remains unsolved, leaving us to wonder what might still lie hidden in its shadow. As we leave behind the quiet hills of Kythera and the enigmatic Temple of Kardaki, our journey now takes us across the vast, high-altitude plains of Peru to a place that has long baffled archaeologists and historians alike. Deep in the southern highlands, near the city of Cusco, lies the ancient Wari city of Pikillaqta, a site once at the heart of one of the most powerful and mysterious civilizations of the Andes. Pikillaqta is home to a complex of temples and structures that have left more questions than answers in their wake. The site of Pikillaqta, nestled within the valleys and mountains that characterize this region, is a testament to the grandeur of the Wari Empire, which flourished in the Andes between 500 and 1000 AD. Unlike other Andean cultures, whose architecture was primarily focused on religious and ceremonial centers, The Wari are known for their large-scale urban planning, exemplified by the vastness of Pikillaqta. The city is expansive, covering several square kilometers, with a network of walls, streets, and multi-level platforms that suggest a sophisticated society. Yet, despite its size and significance, the true purpose of Pikillaqta remains unclear. At the heart of this archaeological site lie the Wari temples, structures that stand in eerie silence against the backdrop of the Andean mountains. These temples, made of tightly fitted stone blocks, appear as massive, square, or rectangular enclosures, their walls adorned with remnants of intricate carvings. Some of the temples are built on elevated platforms, suggesting a symbolic importance, while others are surrounded by courtyards or open spaces that may have been used for communal rituals. The very design of these structures hints at a society that placed significant importance on religion, ritual, and social order. Yet, what makes Pikillaqta's Wari temples particularly intriguing is the fact that their purpose remains largely unknown. Was this a place of worship? Or was it perhaps a ceremonial center dedicated to rites that we can only begin to imagine? What is certain is that the people of the Wari civilization had a deep connection to their spiritual beliefs, as evidenced by the numerous burial sites and offerings found at Pikillaqta. But the question remains, what deities did the Wari worship, and why did they choose to build such imposing temples, scattered across the site in a way that suggests deliberate planning but with no clear pattern that we can discern? The mystery of Pikillaqta's Wari temples deepens when we consider the layout of the city itself. Unlike the typical Andean cities of the time, which often had a central plaza around which everything was organized, Pikillaqta's streets seem to have been arranged in a more haphazard manner, with structures appearing to be placed based on a logic that eludes modern understanding. Was the arrangement of the temples meant to align with celestial events, or were they constructed to create a specific flow of energy through the site? Some researchers have suggested that the layout of Pikillaqta was based on principles of geomancy or energy flow, an ancient belief that the arrangement of structures can influence the spiritual and physical well-being of a community. Could the Wari have been working with an understanding of the land's energy that we have long since forgotten? Adding to the intrigue are the numerous artifacts found at Pikillaqta: pottery, textiles, and even the remains of ceremonial offerings, each of which provides a tantalizing glimpse into the culture of the Wari. But again, the true meaning behind these artifacts remains elusive. While the objects themselves speak of a rich and complex civilization, they also hint at a culture whose spiritual and religious practices we are only beginning to understand. For example, some of the pottery found at the site depicts figures that appear to be engaged in ritualistic activities, suggesting that the Wari temples may have been places of intense spiritual significance. Yet, no clear records or inscriptions have been found to explain exactly what those rituals involved. The Wari temples at Pikillaqta also stand in contrast to other temples of the Andean region, such as those built by the Inca Empire, which followed a more structured religious hierarchy. The Wari, however, appear to have had a more decentralized religious system, with no single overarching deity dominating the pantheon. Instead, their belief system seems to have included a variety of gods and spirits, many of which were connected to natural forces such as the sun, moon, and water. Could the Wari temples have been dedicated to multiple deities, each representing a different aspect of life and nature? Or was there one central god that the temples were meant to honor? The most compelling aspect of Pikillaqta, however, is not simply the architectural mystery of its temples, but the fact that the city itself seems to have been abandoned without explanation. The Wari civilization, once thriving across the Andes, began to fade by the 11th century, and Pikillaqta was left behind, its temples and buildings crumbling to ruin. What happened to the Wari? Did they face an invasion, a collapse of their social order, or perhaps a catastrophic environmental disaster? The absence of detailed records makes it impossible to know for sure, but the abandonment of Pikillaqta raises questions about the nature of ancient civilizations and the fragility of human history. How could such a powerful empire simply disappear, leaving behind only the ruins of its grandest structures? Some theories suggest that the Wari temples at Pikillaqta may have been part of a broader, pan-Andean network of religious centers, designed to connect various regions and peoples in a shared spiritual system. Others propose that the temples were part of a larger effort to consolidate power and maintain control over a vast empire. Perhaps the Wari were attempting to create a unifying force across the Andes, using their temples as focal points for spiritual and political authority. But as with many ancient mysteries, the true purpose of the temples remains speculative, with only fragments of evidence to guide our understanding. The ruins of Pikillaqta stand as a haunting reminder of a once great civilization, its temples now empty, its secrets buried beneath layers of time and stone. What role did these structures play in the spiritual lives of the Wari people, and why did they build them in such a mysterious, seemingly incomprehensible way? As we continue to explore the mysteries of the ancient world, the Wari temples at Pikillaqta serve as an open invitation to reconsider what we think we know about the past, and to wonder what still remains hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered. Leaving behind the high-altitude mysteries of the Andes and the Wari temples at Pikillaqta, we now shift our gaze to the cold, silent waters of Lake Michigan in the heart of the United States. Beneath its waves lies one of the most perplexing underwater mysteries in North America, a site that, if it weren't for the rise of modern technology, might still be completely unknown. This site has become known as Lake Michigan Stonehenge, an eerie submerged formation of large stones arranged in a way that hints at a connection to other ancient megalithic sites, but whose purpose and origin are still a subject of intense debate. The site was discovered in 2007, when a team of researchers led by Dr. Mark Hawley, an underwater archaeologist, stumbled upon a series of stone formations off the coast of the Lake Michigan shoreline, near the northern tip of the Michigan Peninsula. Using sonar imaging technology, they uncovered what appeared to be a collection of large stones lying at the bottom of the lake. At first glance, the arrangement seemed almost too deliberate to be a natural formation. As the researchers surveyed the area, they realized that the arrangement bore a striking resemblance to the famous Stonehenge in England, a structure whose origins have fascinated scholars for centuries. Like Stonehenge, the formation at Lake Michigan consists of a series of upright stones arranged in a circle, with other stones laid horizontally across them. The stones are positioned in such a way that they appear to form a kind of calendar or astronomical marker. Some of the stones are aligned in a way that suggests they may have been used to track the movement of the sun or the stars, much like the megalithic sites of ancient Europe. But as remarkable as this discovery was, it raised a series of perplexing questions. How did these stones get here? And what civilization could have built them, if indeed they were constructed by human hands? The mystery of Lake Michigan Stonehenge deepens when we consider the age of the formation. Current estimates suggest that the stones may be between 9,000 and 10,000 years old, placing their construction at a time when the climate was vastly different from what we know today. During this period, the land surrounding Lake Michigan would have been much lower, with the shoreline extending far beyond where it is now. This means that the area where the stones were found would have once been dry land, accessible to the people who might have created the site. But how did this formation survive the rise of water levels after the end of the last ice age? And why was it built in the first place? The prevailing theory among archaeologists is that the stones may have been erected by an ancient group of people who lived in the Great Lakes region long before the rise of known Native American cultures. Some believe that the formation could be the work of an early Paleo-Indian civilization, a group whose presence in the region has been largely overshadowed by more well-known cultures that followed. These early peoples may have had an understanding of the natural world that we are only beginning to comprehend, and the formation at Lake Michigan could have been used as a ceremonial or astronomical marker, much like other megalithic sites scattered across the globe. However, this theory is not without its controversies. Some researchers argue that the stones might not have been deliberately arranged by human hands at all. Instead, they suggest that the formation could be the result of natural forces, such as glacial movements or erosion, which could have shaped the stones in such a way that they resemble a man-made structure. While this theory is widely accepted by some in the scientific community, it fails to account for the precision of the stone arrangement, which seems too deliberate to be purely coincidental. Could it be that nature itself, in its infinite complexity, created a structure that mirrors human intention? Or could there be a deeper, more mysterious force at work? Then there is the question of the stone's alignment. Like Stonehenge, the stones at Lake Michigan appear to be oriented in such a way that they align with certain astronomical events. Some researchers have noted that the formation could have been used to track the summer solstice, while others suggest that it may have been a marker for the movement of the stars. The alignment of these stones with celestial events is a feature that is common to many megalithic sites around the world. But how did the people who built Lake Michigan Stonehenge, if indeed it was built, possess such advanced knowledge of astronomy? Could they have been working with a sophisticated understanding of the stars that has been lost to time? Or could the alignment of the stones be purely coincidental, the result of a natural arrangement that happens to coincide with celestial events? What makes the mystery of Lake Michigan Stonehenge even more perplexing is the lack of any clear cultural context. Unlike Stonehenge, which is situated in an area with a wealth of archaeological evidence that provides insight into the culture of its builders, the site beneath Lake Michigan has yielded little in the way of supporting artifacts. There are no tools, no pottery, and no human remains to provide clues about the civilization that may have constructed the stones. This lack of evidence leaves researchers with little to go on, and it raises the question of whether the site is truly man-made, or if it is the result of a natural process that we have yet to fully understand. As the search for answers continues, the Lake Michigan Stonehenge remains a tantalizing mystery, one that seems to defy explanation. Could it be that an ancient civilization once inhabited the shores of Lake Michigan, leaving behind a megalithic structure to mark the passing of time or to align with the stars? Or could this formation be something entirely different, a natural phenomenon that we have misinterpreted, shaped by forces beyond our comprehension? Perhaps the most chilling question of all is not whether the stones are man-made, but what they might represent. If they were indeed created by human hands, what did the people who built them know that we do not? What ancient knowledge was embedded in the very stones, waiting for us to discover? And why, after thousands of years, has this mysterious site remained submerged beneath the waters of Lake Michigan, waiting for its secrets to be unearthed? The answer may lie beneath the surface, but until then, the mystery of Lake Michigan Stonehenge endures, a silent testament to a time long past and a puzzle that may never be fully solved. What might still be hidden, waiting to be discovered in the depths of the lake? Only time will tell. Lake Michigan Stonehenge. As we leave the depths of Lake Michigan and its submerged mysteries, we now travel across the North Sea to the rugged, wind-swept hills of the Scottish Highlands. It is here, on the remote slopes of the Dornaigil Peninsula, that one of the most intriguing and enigmatic structures of ancient Scotland rises against the horizon. Dornaigil Broch. Dornaigil is a broch, a type of stone tower found primarily in northern Scotland, built during the Iron Age, around 2,000 years ago. These structures are unlike any other in Europe, and their exact purpose continues to baffle archaeologists. The term broch refers to a specific type of round, dry stone tower, often with double walls, which were likely built between 500 BC and 200 AD. Standing like silent sentinels against the harsh Scottish landscape, brochs have long been the subject of debate. Were they fortified homes, ceremonial structures, or something else entirely? Dornaigil Broch, perched on a rocky knoll overlooking the vast expanse of moorland below, stands as one of the best preserved examples of these mysterious towers. The broch itself is a circular structure made of carefully stacked stones, rising to an impressive height. Its outer wall measures roughly 12 meters in diameter, and its inner walls, once covered in earth and turf, would have been even taller. The structure's design, with its thick walls and narrow windows, hints at both defensive and residential functions. But as with many ancient structures, the questions that surround it are as intriguing as the building itself. The first thing that strikes you when standing at Dornaigil is its sense of isolation. The broch is located in a remote area, surrounded by rugged terrain and far from any obvious source of water or fertile land. Why then was such an elaborate and labor-intensive structure built in this seemingly inhospitable spot? Its construction would have required significant effort, and its location suggests that its creators may have had a specific purpose for choosing it. Was Dornaigil meant to control the surrounding land, perhaps serving as a lookout or fortress for its inhabitants? Or was it intended as a residence, a place for an elite family or clan to assert their power in the region? While many brochs share similar features, such as their tall circular walls and narrow high doorways, Dornaigil has several distinguishing characteristics that set it apart. The broch is not the only structure on the site. It is surrounded by a series of other stone enclosures, which could have been used for a variety of purposes. These additional structures might have served as living quarters, workshops, or storage spaces. The complexity of the site suggests that Dornaigil may have been a small, self-sustaining community rather than just a single, isolated tower. Yet despite the evidence of habitation, there is still no clear understanding of how these structures were used or by whom. One of the most puzzling aspects of Dornaigil is the way in which it was constructed. The broch's walls were built using a technique known as corbelling, in which stones are gradually laid inwards as they rise, creating a domed structure. This technique is remarkably advanced for its time, requiring both skill and knowledge of engineering principles. The walls of Dornaigil are so thick that they likely provided insulation against the cold winds that sweep across the highlands. Yet, despite the technical sophistication of its construction, the broch lacks many of the features found in later, more well-known Iron Age fortifications, such as external defenses like ditches or palisades. Why, then, did the builders of Dornaigil not fortify the structure in the same way as other Iron Age settlements? Was it because they believed the broch itself was defensible? Or was there a different reason for this seemingly minimalist approach to defense? Adding to the intrigue is the broch's interior. The central chamber of Dornaigil would have been dark and enclosed, with only a narrow entrance and small openings to allow light and air in. The walls of the broch are divided by several levels of stone galleries, which would have created a series of small rooms. These rooms, however, have yielded little in terms of artifacts, and no traces of hearths or cooking areas have been found inside the broch. Was it simply a place of shelter, or was it used for more specific purposes? Ritual, perhaps, or as a central point for some form of social or political activity? Despite the lack of definitive answers, several theories have been proposed about the broch's function. The most widely accepted theory is that Dornaigil served as a defensive structure, built to protect its inhabitants from raids by rival groups or invaders. The location of the broch, with its commanding view over the surrounding landscape, would have made it an ideal vantage point for spotting potential threats. It is also possible that Dornaigil was a status symbol, an imposing structure meant to display the wealth and power of its builders. In an area where natural resources were limited, the time and effort required to construct such a monumental structure could have signaled the importance of the individuals or clan who built it. Another theory suggests that Dornaigil may have been a ceremonial site. Some researchers point to the lack of evidence for everyday activities, such as cooking or food storage, as an indication that the broch may have been used for religious or spiritual purposes. The fact that the broch is positioned in such a prominent location could suggest that it had a role in the community's rituals, perhaps as a place where the spiritual leaders or elders gathered. The use of stone in the construction of the broch, an enduring material that has withstood the ravages of time, may also hold symbolic significance. Could the broch have been a symbol of permanence or connection to the gods? And then there are the more speculative theories. Some have suggested that the brochs, including Dornaigil, were part of a much larger and unknown network of ancient structures across the British Isles, connected by a shared belief system or purpose. Perhaps the brochs were part of a widespread effort to track celestial events, or mark significant points in the landscape, as is suggested by some other megalithic structures found across Europe. Could the builders of Dornaigil have been influenced by an ancient, long-forgotten tradition that we have yet to uncover? Despite the many theories, the purpose of Dornaigil remains uncertain. Was it a fortress, a residence, or a spiritual site? What did the people who built it believe, and how did they live? The broch stands today as a silent sentinel, its mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Could the answers lie in the small details, the arrangement of stones, the lack of artifacts, or the strategic location of the structure? Or might there be something more, something deeper, that we have yet to understand about the people who built Dornaigil? As we ponder these questions, we are reminded that sometimes the most profound mysteries are not the ones that are easily solved, but those that remain just out of reach, their secrets hidden beneath the stones, waiting for us to ask the right questions. What else might we uncover at Dornaigil, and what forgotten history still lingers within its walls? The answers, like the broch itself, may lie buried beneath centuries of time, waiting for someone to unearth them. From the wind-swept highlands of Scotland, we now journey southeast toward the warm, flowing waters of the Danube River, which winds through the heart of the Balkans. Here, near the border between Serbia and Romania, lies one of the most remarkable and mysterious archaeological sites of prehistoric Europe, Lepenski Vir. Hidden away in a secluded bend of the river, this ancient settlement dates back to around 8000 BC, making it one of the oldest known Mesolithic sites in the region. Lepenski Vir is notable not only for its age, but also for the unusual and complex layout of its structures. What truly sets this site apart, however, are the stone foundations and layouts found here, some of which remain an enigma to this day. The settlement's buildings, though simple by modern standards, are constructed in a distinctive, almost otherworldly way. Each structure at Lepenski Vir is made of large, precisely cut stones that have been carefully arranged into a unique shape, an unusual trapezoidal form that seems to defy typical architectural conventions of the time. These stone foundations are unlike anything else found in the region or elsewhere in prehistoric Europe, raising questions not only about the people who built them, but also about what these layouts may represent. At first glance, Lepenski Vir might appear to be a series of simple dwellings clustered along the riverbank. However, a closer examination reveals a level of organization and intention that is rare for a settlement of this age. The buildings are arranged in a specific pattern, all facing toward the river, as if the inhabitants of Lepenski Vir held some form of reverence for the water that flowed by. The settlement's orientation is striking, as it suggests a deep connection between the people and their environment. The river itself, with its powerful currents and life-sustaining resources, likely played a central role in their daily lives. But was it merely a source of sustenance, or did it hold spiritual significance? As the settlement was unearthed, archaeologists found that the floors of the buildings were constructed with large, flat stones, sometimes arranged in circular patterns. These stone circles, sometimes featuring elaborate carvings, seem to suggest that the people of Lepenski Vir possessed both artistic and ritualistic sensibilities. Intriguingly, many of the carvings are in the form of faces or human-like figures, often with exaggerated features such as large eyes and prominent noses. Some of these figures have been interpreted as idols or representations of deities, and it is likely that the people of Lepenski Vir viewed their surroundings through a spiritual lens, where the river, the stones, and the earth itself were imbued with meaning. The site's most striking features, however, are the stone layouts that define the settlement. The trapezoidal shapes of the buildings are unusual, particularly given that many prehistoric structures from the same time period would have been more circular or rectangular. The precise planning of the settlement's layout raises an interesting question. Was this an intentional design, or did the form emerge naturally from a cultural tradition? And what could the shape of the buildings symbolize? Did the trapezoidal layout serve a functional purpose, such as improving the flow of air or light? Or did it have a deeper, more symbolic meaning? Some researchers have suggested that the unique shape could be a representation of the natural world, or perhaps a reflection of some cosmic or celestial alignment, pointing to a more sophisticated understanding of the universe. Beyond the layout itself, the positioning of the buildings raises more questions. Each of the structures at Lepenski Vir seems to have been constructed with careful consideration of the surrounding environment, and their placement along the riverbank suggests a deliberate attempt to harmonize with the natural world. Some scholars have proposed that the arrangement of the settlement might correspond to some form of astronomical or calendrical system, with the river acting as a sort of axis that connects the buildings to the cycles of nature. Could the people of Lepenski Vir have been observing the stars or the solstices in the same way as the ancient cultures of the Near East, whose megalithic structures served as markers for celestial events? If so, why did they choose to build their settlement in this particular spot, and how did they incorporate the movements of the heavens into their daily lives? Perhaps even more intriguing are the enigmatic artifacts found at the site. Stone tools, figurines, and objects that seem to have symbolic or ritualistic purposes. Many of the artifacts discovered at Lepenski Vir are carved from stone or bone, and some are decorated with intricate geometric patterns. Some have been interpreted as representations of animals, while others resemble human figures, further supporting the idea that the people of this settlement had a deep connection to their environment and a belief system that was both animistic and symbolic. These figurines, though simple in design, seem to reflect a culture that sought to understand and represent the forces of nature that surrounded them. The mystery of Lepenski Vir deepens when we consider the site's age. At over 10,000 years old, the settlement predates many of the ancient civilizations we are familiar with, including the Egyptians, Mesopotamians, and Indus Valley cultures. What does this suggest about the people who lived here? Could they have had knowledge and skills that were far ahead of their time? Some theories propose that the people of Lepenski Vir were part of a larger, still unknown cultural network, one that may have spanned the vast reaches of Europe and the Near East. The site's advanced stonework, its unique layout, and its ritualistic artifacts suggest that the people of this settlement were not just survivors living off the land, but thinkers, artists, and spiritual leaders in their own right. While mainstream scholars tend to focus on the practical aspects of Lepenski Vir, its role as a fishing village, its use of advanced tools, and its unique approach to settlement, others have speculated that there may be a deeper, more profound meaning to the site. Some have suggested that the layout of the settlement, with its unique buildings and placement by the river, could have been designed to align with certain celestial events, such as the movements of the sun or the stars. The presence of carved faces and human-like figures also invites speculation that the site may have served as a place of ritual, a sacred space where the people of Lepenski communicated with the divine. Could it be that the river, which played such a central role in the lives of these people, also represented something more profound? Perhaps it was seen not only as a source of sustenance, but as a sacred, flowing connection to the spiritual realm. The people of Lepenski might have believed that the river's waters held transformative powers, connecting the physical world with the divine. Could the trapezoidal layouts of their buildings have been designed to channel the energy of the river, or to align with celestial bodies in a way that enhanced their spiritual practices? The mystery surrounding Lepenski is one that continues to elude definitive answers. As researchers continue to study the site, new questions arise and old theories are reevaluated. What we do know is that the people of this ancient settlement had a deep connection to their environment, one that may have been far more sophisticated than we can imagine. The stone layouts, the unique architecture, and the carved figurines are all testaments to a culture that understood the forces of nature, and perhaps even the stars, in ways we are only beginning to comprehend. Could the people of Lepenski have been part of a broader, now forgotten network of ancient cultures, sharing knowledge and spiritual practices across Europe and beyond? Or was this settlement an isolated community, with beliefs and practices unique to its own time and place? The answers to these questions remain elusive, but as we continue to explore the mystery of Lepenski we are left to wonder what secrets still lie buried beneath the stones, waiting for a future generation to uncover. From the dry landscapes of the Balkans, we now travel across the shimmering waters of the Mediterranean to the southeastern coast of Greece. Here, beneath the surface of the Aegean Sea, lies a secret that has been hidden for millennia: the submerged ruins of Pavlopetri. A site that has captured the imagination of archaeologists and historians alike. Pavlopetri is an ancient city that rests quietly beneath the waves, offering a glimpse into a world long forgotten by time. This submerged settlement is thought to be one of the oldest known submerged cities in the world, its origins dating back to around 5,000 years ago, during the early to middle Bronze Age. Pavlopetri is not just any underwater site. It is remarkably well preserved. The ruins, spread over several acres of seabed, are not merely scattered remnants, but an organized, nearly intact city, complete with streets, buildings, courtyards, and even what appear to be structures for storage and possibly ritual. Discovered in the 1960s by a Greek archaeologist named Nicholas Verdelis, the city remained relatively unnoticed until the 1970s, when a team of divers and archaeologists began to explore its full extent. What they found was both surprising and mysterious. Entire neighborhoods, with streets laid out in a grid pattern, have been identified, suggesting that this ancient settlement may have had a sophisticated urban planning system far ahead of its time. The site is located just off the coast of the modern-day village of Pavlopetri, which is how the submerged ruins received their name. The city itself is spread over several meters of depth, with parts of it resting just beneath the surface, and other parts lying deeper in the darkened waters. The city was likely abandoned for reasons that remain unclear, but it is believed to have been submerged due to seismic activity, a common occurrence in the Mediterranean region. Earthquakes and shifts in the Earth's crust could have caused the land to sink gradually over time, drawing the city under the waves. Despite its gradual submersion, Pavlopetri offers an extraordinary view of the past. The underwater city is not just a jumble of stone foundations, but an intricate maze of streets and well-constructed buildings. The layout of the city suggests an advanced understanding of urban planning, with rectangular and square structures aligned along streets that seem to follow a systematic pattern. Archaeologists have identified multiple buildings within the city, including private homes, public spaces, and even what might have been places for social gatherings or communal functions. The careful layout of these structures and the evident use of large flat stones indicates that the inhabitants of Pavlopetri possessed architectural skills far beyond what was previously thought for this time period. The most striking feature of Pavlopetri is the extensive network of streets. These streets are wide and clear, allowing one to trace the flow of the city with remarkable precision. Some of the streets appear to form a grid pattern, while others wind in a more organic, curving manner, perhaps following the natural contours of the land or water. This planning suggests that the city had a certain level of organization that was uncommon for settlements of this age. It is a mystery why such a city, so meticulously designed, would have been abandoned, or worse, submerged without any apparent trace of those who once lived there. Could a sudden natural disaster, like an earthquake, have led to the city's downfall? Or was its fate the result of something more gradual, such as climate change or sea level rise? The city's buildings are another fascinating aspect of Pavlopetri. Many of the stone structures are well defined, with walls that seem to have once enclosed rooms and courtyards. The stones themselves are made from limestone, which was easily available in the area, yet the precision with which they were placed suggests that these people had an advanced knowledge of building techniques. The city appears to have been well planned for both functionality and beauty, with smooth walls and streets that would have allowed the residents to navigate the city with ease. However, as much as these physical remains hint at an organized society, very little else is known about its inhabitants. What kind of people built Pavlopetri? And why did they choose this particular location? What makes Pavlopetri even more compelling is the relative lack of artifacts recovered from the site. While the underwater city is replete with structures, its treasures, such as pottery, tools, or weapons, are sparse. A few pottery fragments have been found, and some rudimentary tools have been unearthed, but the material culture of the city is conspicuously absent. What happened to the belongings of its people? Did they evacuate quickly, leaving behind their possessions, or was the city perhaps abandoned over a longer period of time, with many items simply lost to the sea? Some have speculated that the lack of artifacts might suggest that the people of Pavlopetri were not wealthy, or that they were possibly more concerned with functionality and practicality than with the ornamentation of their homes. Another intriguing aspect of Pavlopetri is the possibility that it may have been a trading hub. The Aegean Sea, with its numerous islands and its proximity to other Mediterranean cultures, would have made it an ideal location for trade. There are signs that the city may have had a connection to the Minoan civilization, which flourished on the island of Crete during the same time period. The people of Pavlopetri may have been engaged in trade with other coastal settlements in the Mediterranean, exchanging goods and ideas with cultures as far as Egypt and the Near East. Could Pavlopetri have been a vital link in an early network of Mediterranean trade, its placement near the sea ensuring its prosperity? Some of the underwater ruins show evidence of cultural connections to other ancient Mediterranean cultures. A few carved stones, as well as pottery shards, have been found that resemble artifacts from the Minoan civilization of Crete, suggesting that Pavlopetri may have had contact with the Minoans, or perhaps even been influenced by them. The existence of a trading hub in this part of the Mediterranean, much earlier than previously thought, raises the possibility that Pavlopetri could have been part of a complex, interconnected world of ancient seafaring civilizations. But even as we speculate on the mysteries of Pavlopetri, one thing remains clear. We have only scratched the surface of understanding this ancient city. The fact that it is submerged in the Aegean Sea, its ruins protected by the very water that hides it, only adds to its mystique. How much of the city remains buried beneath the waves, untouched by time? What secrets might still lie beneath the seabed, waiting to be discovered? Could there be more to Pavlopetri's story, or perhaps even more sites like it, hidden in the deep waters of the Mediterranean, waiting to reveal themselves? As researchers continue to explore the depths of Pavlopetri, the mystery of this submerged city only deepens. While it stands as one of the earliest known examples of a submerged urban center, its full significance and the reason for its disappearance remains shrouded in uncertainty. Did the people of Pavlopetri vanish in a sudden catastrophe, or did their civilization slowly fade, submerged under the weight of time and nature? The answers may lie beneath the waters, waiting to be unearthed, and we are left to wonder, what else might the sea be hiding? From the sunken ruins of Pavlopetri, we now turn our attention to another site of extraordinary historical intrigue. But this time we journey north to the windswept remote islands of Orkney, off the northeastern coast of Scotland. It is here, on the island of Sandby, that we find Quoyness Cairn, an ancient burial site whose stone chambers have baffled archaeologists for centuries. Quoyness Cairn, a large Neolithic tomb, is not just another burial mound. It is a structure whose origins, purpose, and the practices surrounding it remain largely shrouded in mystery. As we approach the cairn, the first thing that strikes you is its striking location. The tomb sits atop a low hill, with a sweeping view of the surrounding landscape, the rugged coastline, the rolling hills, and the vast expanse of the North Sea stretching endlessly in the distance. The sense of isolation is palpable. This is a place where the living and the dead seem to be drawn together by the landscape itself, as though the cairn was intentionally placed here to be in harmony with both the earth and the sky. The open space around the cairn suggests that it was meant to be a prominent and visible structure, one that would stand out against the wild, untamed environment of the island. It is as though the cairn was designed not just to mark a burial, but to leave a permanent imprint on the land, a monument to both the deceased and to those who lived in the age of its construction. Quoyness Cairn is a passage tomb built from large stones arranged in a circular structure, with a long passage leading to a central chamber. The passage itself is roughly aligned with the rising and setting sun, which has led some archaeologists to speculate that the cairn was built with astronomical or ritualistic considerations in mind. The tomb's structure is typical of the Neolithic period, yet there is something about Quoyness that feels distinctly different. Its scale, its positioning, and the mystery of its purpose. The cairn is not just a simple burial mound, but a carefully constructed monument that may have been used for ceremonial purposes as well as interment. The inner chamber of Quoyness Cairn is the heart of the structure. It is here, within the stone walls of this small but remarkably preserved space, that the dead were likely placed. The chamber itself is a circular room, accessible via the long passageway. Within the chamber, archaeologists have found evidence of multiple burials, along with remnants of cremated bones, suggesting that the tomb was used for generations. But what is striking about Quoyness Cairn is the sophisticated manner in which the bodies were laid to rest. The care with which the cairn was constructed and the precision of the stonework implies that this was a place of great significance. Why, then, did the builders go to such lengths to create a tomb that would remain hidden beneath the earth for millennia? The passage tombs of Orkney, including Quoyness Cairn, are known for their advanced construction techniques, with stones precisely fitted together in a way that has allowed these structures to endure for thousands of years. However, what makes Quoyness unique is the series of carvings found on some of the stones used to build the tomb. These carvings are not typical of the era, and their meaning remains elusive. Some of the carvings resemble spiral motifs, while others feature geometric patterns that seem to have no clear explanation. Was this symbolism, or did the carvings serve a more practical function, perhaps related to the burial rituals performed at the site? These markings have sparked considerable debate among researchers, with some suggesting that they could represent celestial or spiritual beliefs, while others believe they could have been symbols of clan identity or rites of passage. It is also worth noting the size and shape of the cairn. Unlike other, smaller tombs in the region, Quoyness Cairn is quite large, capable of holding multiple individuals. Some researchers speculate that this might indicate the tomb was reserved for a prominent family or community leader, or perhaps even for a group of people who were buried together in some kind of ceremonial fashion. The sheer scale of the cairn suggests that it was not simply a utilitarian burial site, but one that may have held greater symbolic meaning, perhaps as a focal point for communal gatherings, or a place where rituals were performed. Adding to the mystery of Quoyness Cairn is the fact that it was never fully excavated until relatively recently. While some parts of the tomb were uncovered in the 19th century, it wasn't until the 20th century that archaeological teams began to carefully examine the structure in more detail. Despite this, there are still many unanswered questions about the tomb. For example, why was the cairn constructed in such a remote location, far from the centers of population on the island? What significance did the natural landscape hold for the people who built it? Was the location chosen to create a sense of connection between the living and the dead, or was it chosen for some other reason that we can only speculate about? There are also questions surrounding the people who built Quoyness Cairn. While it is generally accepted that the tomb was constructed by the Neolithic inhabitants of Orkney, the precise identity of these people remains uncertain. Who were they, and what did they believe? The Neolithic people of Orkney were part of a culture that was transitioning from a purely hunter-gatherer society to one that was more settled and agricultural. This transition would have had profound effects on the way they lived, their social structures, and their religious beliefs. It is likely that Quoyness Cairn, like other Neolithic tombs, played a central role in the rituals and beliefs of these early communities. Some researchers have proposed that the tomb could have been linked to a broader spiritual or religious tradition that was common to Neolithic peoples across Europe. The motifs and carvings found at Quoyness, for example, are similar to those found at other ancient sites, such as Newgrange in Ireland or Maeshowe in Orkney. These similarities suggest that the people who built Quoyness Cairn were part of a wider cultural and spiritual network that spanned the northern reaches of Europe. Were they connected to other communities through trade or shared beliefs, or were these symbols simply part of a widespread cultural tradition? The most compelling aspect of Quoyness Cairn, however, lies in the mysteries that still surround it. The tomb stands as a silent witness to the Neolithic people who once lived on the island of Sandby, yet it offers few clues as to the true nature of their culture and beliefs. The carvings on the stones, the layout of the cairn, and the burial practices all suggest a society that was complex and deeply connected to both the natural world and the spiritual realm. Yet, we are left to wonder what these people truly believed, and how they saw their relationship with the land and the cosmos. The open questions about Quoyness Cairn leave us with much to ponder. Was it simply a tomb for the dead, or did it serve as a center for rituals that tied together the lives of the living and the spirits of the ancestors? What role did the carvings on the stones play in the lives of the people who built it? And what can the burial practices and architectural complexity of this site tell us about the Neolithic worldview? As we continue to explore the mysteries of ancient sites like Quoyness Cairn, we are reminded that there is still so much we do not understand about the people who came before us. What truths lie buried beneath the earth, waiting for us to uncover them? What knowledge have we lost, and what remains hidden, waiting to be discovered by those who seek to understand the past? The answers may be closer than we think, but for now, Quoyness Cairn stands as a haunting reminder of the enduring mysteries of our ancient ancestors. As we move from the windswept hills of Orkney, we now turn our attention to another remote and ancient site, this time nestled among the serene yet mysterious landscape of Ireland. Here, in the County Wicklow, a site known as Seefin Passage Tomb quietly rests upon the mountain known as Seefin, surrounded by rugged terrain and the far-reaching view of the Irish countryside. This tomb, although lesser known than some of its counterparts in Ireland, holds its own share of secrets and unexplained features that have long intrigued archaeologists, historians, and even those with an interest in the spiritual practices of ancient cultures. The Seefin Passage tomb is an example of a megalithic structure built by the people of the Neolithic period around 5,000 years ago. Passage tombs are a distinct type of burial site, usually consisting of a long passage that leads to a central chamber, often constructed with large, carefully placed stones. The Seefin tomb is no exception, yet what stands out about it is not just its structure, but its location. Perched on the side of a mountain overlooking the rolling hills of County Wicklow, Seefin presents itself not merely as a burial site, but as a monumental testament to the people who chose this remote, elevated spot for their final resting place. The tomb is constructed from large stones, many of which have been positioned with a precise, careful technique. The chamber itself is small, but its entrance is unmistakable. At the end of the long passage, a large stone slab serves as the threshold, marking the boundary between the world of the living and the world of the dead. The placement of the tomb, high on the mountain, suggests that it was not just a physical burial site, but a location of symbolic importance, perhaps chosen for its connection to the heavens, or for the view it offered over the land that the deceased had once inhabited. Was the site chosen because it was thought to be closer to the gods, or was there some other, more personal significance to this lofty position? As is often the case with ancient sites, the purpose of the Seefin Passage tomb is not entirely clear. While it is widely accepted as a burial site, much about the tomb's function remains unknown. The Neolithic people who constructed these structures had a sophisticated understanding of architecture and astronomy, and many of the passage tombs across Ireland are aligned with solar or lunar events, such as solstices or equinoxes. Was Seefin aligned in a similar way? If so, it might indicate that those who built the tomb saw the movements of the sun and the moon as a way to connect the living with the divine or with the spirits of the ancestors. Could it be that the tomb at Seefin was used in ceremonies, with the passage serving as a physical metaphor for the journey from life to the afterlife, a path that echoed the cycles of the natural world? Interestingly, the Seefin Passage tomb is not a solitary structure. It is part of a larger megalithic complex, with several other tombs dotting the nearby landscape. Together, these tombs form a kind of spiritual network, stretching across the hills of County Wicklow. This alignment suggests that the Neolithic communities in this area may have been connected by a shared belief system or spiritual practice. Could the location of Seefin, surrounded by other tombs, indicate that it was part of a larger ceremonial or ritual landscape? Was there a belief in a sacred geography, where certain places were imbued with power due to their location or natural features? As with so many ancient sites, the connections between them remain tantalizingly out of reach, forcing us to speculate on the deeper meaning behind their placement. Beyond its architecture and location, Seefin also holds an important place in the study of ancient burial practices. Unlike other tombs, which might have been built solely for the elite or for specific individuals, the Seefin tomb could have been used for multiple burials, as evidenced by the evidence of human remains found at the site. This practice of communal burial raises questions about the social structure of Neolithic Ireland. Were these tombs intended to honor entire families, clans, or groups of people? Or were they used in a more selective way, reserved for a particular class of individuals or leaders? The communal nature of the tomb might suggest a more egalitarian society, where death was seen as a collective experience, shared by a wider community. The stones of Seefin also tell a story, but it is a story that we are only beginning to piece together. Some of the stones appear to have been moved or displaced over time, possibly due to the natural erosion of the landscape or human activity. The tomb itself has suffered from the ravages of time, with some stones no longer standing in their original positions. Yet, despite this, the tomb remains remarkably intact, a silent witness to the passage of thousands of years. The wear and tear on the stones hint at the tomb's long history, suggesting that it has been used, reused, and perhaps even rediscovered multiple times over the centuries. The mystery of Seefin also lies in the question of why it was built. While the Neolithic people of Ireland are known for their burial mounds, few have such dramatic locations as Seefin. What led the builders to choose this mountaintop, far from the bustling centers of their communities? The tomb's location and its scale suggest that it was not just a burial site, but something more. Could it have been used for rituals that were meant to bridge the gap between the living and the dead? Was it a place where the ancient peoples of Ireland communed with their ancestors, or did it serve as a sacred site for other unknown purposes? Theories about the purpose of Seefin range from the spiritual to the astronomical. Some researchers have proposed that the tomb's passage may align with specific celestial events, like the rising sun at certain times of the year, suggesting that it was designed to capture the movement of the heavens. This theory would align with the practices of other passage tombs across Ireland and Europe, where the rising or setting of the sun marked the changing seasons or the life cycles of the people. If Seefin were aligned with the heavens in this way, it would suggest that the people who built it saw their tomb not only as a place for the dead, but as a link between the earthly realm and the cosmos. Other theories propose that the site was chosen for its visibility, its elevated position offering an unobstructed view of the surrounding land. From the top of Seefin, it is possible to see for miles in all directions, and this expansive view may have symbolized the broader perspective that the deceased now had, looking out over the land they had once inhabited. Was Seefin designed as a place where the dead could look down upon the living, or was it a place where the living could gaze upward, seeking guidance from the spirits of their ancestors? Despite the many theories, one thing is certain: Seefin Passage Tomb remains an enigma. Its purpose, its builders, and its connection to the wider landscape and cosmos continue to elude us. What lies beneath the surface of this ancient site, hidden by centuries of time and erosion? What secrets might still be waiting to be discovered in the quiet chambers of Seefin? As with so many ancient sites, the mystery of Seefin Passage Tomb forces us to confront the limitations of our knowledge. There is much that we will likely never understand about the people who built this tomb, or about the spiritual practices that shaped their lives. But perhaps it is in the unanswered questions that we find the true intrigue of Seefin. What might we discover next, as we continue to unearth the ancient history of Ireland, and what else might remain hidden, waiting for us to ask the right questions? After delving into the mystical remnants of Ireland's ancient tombs, we now journey to the heart of the Andes, where the towering peaks of Peru guard one of the most enigmatic archaeological sites of the ancient world. Here, nestled high in the sacred valley, lies Ollantaytambo, a site known for its impressive ruins, yet overshadowed by one particular mystery that continues to baffle researchers and visitors alike: the massive, perfectly cut stone blocks that form part of the site's walls. Ollantaytambo is not just an ordinary archaeological site. It is a place of grandeur and intrigue. This ancient Incan town, with its labyrinthine streets and towering terraces, sits at the base of a steep mountain, where the massive stone walls rise dramatically against the rugged Andean landscape. These walls, built with enormous blocks of stone, were once part of a grand temple complex, and they are some of the most remarkable examples of Inca masonry in existence. The scale and precision of the construction are awe-inspiring, particularly when you consider the technological limitations of the time. The most curious feature of Ollantaytambo, however, is the enormous blocks of stone that form the lower sections of the temple's walls. These blocks are some of the largest ever cut by the Inca, weighing as much as 50 tons each. And yet, despite their immense size, they have been precisely cut and shaped, with joints so tight that even a knife blade cannot fit between them. The stones fit together with such precision that there is no mortar or adhesive material used, just the weight and the craftsmanship of the stones themselves. How did the Inca, with their primitive tools, manage to shape and move these massive stones with such accuracy? One of the most intriguing aspects of the Ollantaytambo wall blocks is the way in which they were transported to the site. The journey from the quarries, some of which are located miles away, must have been a monumental task. The Inca are known for their engineering feats, but moving 50-ton stones over such great distances would have been an immense challenge, even with modern technology. Scholars have proposed a variety of theories to explain how these stones were moved. Some suggest that the Inca used a system of ramps and sledges, while others believe that they may have employed the use of manpower and advanced pulley systems. However, despite years of research, no definitive answer has been found. Did the Inca have an advanced knowledge of mechanical engineering, or was there another, more mysterious force at play? The methods used to cut these stones are equally perplexing. The Incas did not have metal tools capable of cutting such hard stone, so the question arises, how did they manage to achieve such fine cuts? Some experts suggest that they used a combination of abrasion techniques, using harder stones to grind away at the rock, while others believe that they may have used some form of ancient knowledge or lost technology. There are even fringe theories that suggest the use of sound frequencies or vibration techniques to cut the stones with precision, though there is no direct evidence to support this idea. Whatever the method, the craftsmanship is undeniable, and it raises questions about the extent of the Incas' technological and architectural abilities. Adding to the mystery of the Ollantaytambo wall blocks is the fact that many of these stones were never actually finished or fully set into place. Some blocks are found at the base of the temple, abandoned mid-construction, with unfinished faces and rough edges. Could it be that these stones were part of a grander, unfinished project? Some researchers believe that the temple was never completed, possibly due to a disruption in the Incas' efforts, perhaps the Spanish conquest of the Inca Empire, or internal political struggles that halted construction. But if the project was unfinished, why were these enormous stones cut, shaped, and transported only to be left lying unfinished on the ground? There is also the issue of the unusual angles of the stones themselves. Many of the blocks are not rectangular, but trapezoidal, with slight inward slants. This unique shape is not found in other parts of the Inca Empire and raises questions about the purpose of these stones. Were they designed to fit into a specific architectural pattern, or was there some symbolic meaning behind their peculiar shape? The alignment of the stones and their connection to the natural landscape may hold the key to understanding their purpose. Did the stones, positioned in such a way, have astronomical or spiritual significance, connecting the human-built environment with the celestial world above? Perhaps the most compelling aspect of the Ollantaytambo wall blocks is their connection to the broader mystery of Inca architecture. The Inca are known for their incredible ability to build massive, complex structures that were not only functional, but also deeply symbolic. At Ollantaytambo, the stone blocks are not simply building materials. They are part of a greater cosmic design, one that may have been intended to align with the movement of the sun, the stars, and the natural forces that governed the Inca worldview. Was the construction of the temple at Ollantaytambo an act of cosmic alignment? A spiritual undertaking designed to honor the gods and the forces of nature? The site itself also raises questions about the role of Ollantaytambo in Inca society. While it is known that the site was a royal estate, serving as a ceremonial center and military stronghold, the full extent of its purpose remains unclear. Some researchers believe that Ollantaytambo was a place of pilgrimage, a site where people from across the empire came to honor the gods and perform rituals. Others speculate that it was a site of military importance, with the Inca using its strategic position to control the valley below. Yet, no matter the specific function, one thing is clear. The site's significance transcended its utilitarian purpose. The stones, the alignment, and the sheer scale of the construction all point to a deep spiritual or ritualistic meaning that has yet to be fully understood. In the end, the mystery of the Ollantaytambo wall blocks is not just about the stones themselves, but about what they represent. They are a testament to the ingenuity and craftsmanship of the Inca, yet they also raise profound questions about the lost knowledge, the advanced techniques, and the spiritual beliefs that may have underpinned the Inca civilization. Were these stones merely part of a grand architectural project, or were they something more, a symbolic bridge between the earthly and the divine? The unanswered questions about Ollantaytambo remain, leaving us with a sense of wonder and intrigue. What other mysteries lie buried beneath the stones of Ollantaytambo, waiting to be uncovered? Was there a secret knowledge, a forgotten technique, that allowed the Inca to achieve such precision? Or is the true significance of these stones something that cannot be fully understood through the lens of modern archaeology? As we continue to explore the past, the stone blocks of Ollantaytambo stand as a silent reminder of the mysteries that still lie hidden, waiting to be revealed. As we leave behind the stone walls of Ollantaytambo, we find ourselves journeying to the northern reaches of Africa, where the dry winds of the Sahara sweep across the ancient lands of Algeria. Here, atop a hill overlooking the vast, rolling plains, sits Madrasan, a mysterious and hauntingly beautiful burial site that dates back over 2 millennia. At first glance, it might seem like just another ancient mausoleum, but a closer examination reveals that Madrasan is much more than that. It is a monument to a forgotten civilization, an enigma that has confounded historians and archaeologists for centuries. Madrasan is the tomb of a king, though his identity remains a subject of debate. The structure itself is a testament to the ancient Numidian culture, which flourished in what is now Algeria and Tunisia between the 3rd century BC and the 1st century BC. The tomb, built around the 2nd century BC, rises from the landscape like a sentinel, its towering walls and intricate design standing in stark contrast to the harsh environment around it. This grand monument is not merely a burial site, but a statement of power, prestige, and a society that sought to leave an indelible mark on history. The tomb is known as a mausoleum, a type of monumental burial structure. Madrasan's mausoleum is particularly striking due to its size and its elaborate design. It consists of a large central building, which is surrounded by smaller structures and a series of stone steps leading up to the platform where the tomb itself rests. The central chamber, which is believed to have been the final resting place of a Numidian king, is topped with a massive circular dome that stands as one of the most impressive architectural features of the site. Its scale and grandeur are immediately apparent, but it is the intricacy of the carvings and the precision of the stonework that truly make Madrasan stand out. Unlike the simpler tombs of the time, Madrasan is adorned with detailed carvings that depict scenes of royal life, from hunts to military conquests. These reliefs, though worn by time, still offer a glimpse into the cultural and religious beliefs of the people who built the tomb. The Numidians, who were known for their fierce independence and warrior culture, seem to have used these carvings to not only honor the deceased, but also to showcase their power and strength to those who would come after. The presence of military scenes is not surprising, given the Numidian rulers' long history of warfare. But the question remains, why were these specific scenes chosen, and what do they reveal about the civilization's values? The site's placement on a hill adds another layer of intrigue. The tomb is positioned with a clear view of the surrounding plains, allowing the king's final resting place to dominate the landscape, visible from miles away. This strategic positioning could have been symbolic, with the elevated site representing the king's elevated status in life and death. Was the location chosen for its spiritual significance, or was it meant to assert the king's dominance over the land he ruled? The connection between the tomb and the surrounding landscape is something that continues to puzzle archaeologists. Could there have been an astronomical or ceremonial purpose behind the specific alignment of the site, similar to the ancient tombs of Egypt or the mysterious burial sites of the Celts? What makes Medracen even more fascinating is the lack of definitive information about the king or ruler buried there. While it is widely believed that Medracen is the final resting place of one of the kings of Numidia, there is no clear identification of the individual. The Numidian kingdom, once a powerful force in North Africa, was known for its shifting alliances and frequent battles with the Romans. The ambiguity surrounding the tomb's occupant leaves open the possibility that it could belong to a king who played a pivotal role in the history of the region, yet whose name was lost to history. Some scholars have speculated that the tomb could belong to King Massinissa, one of the most famous Numidian rulers, who played a crucial role in the Punic Wars and forged an alliance with Rome. However, there is no concrete evidence to support this theory. The lack of inscriptions or definitive markers within the tomb has left the identity of the king buried in Medracen an enduring mystery. Could the tomb belong to Massinissa, or is it the final resting place of another lesser-known ruler whose story was never fully recorded? Adding to the mystery is the tomb's construction. Medracen is a marvel of ancient engineering, yet it was built at a time when the Numidians were not known for monumental architecture. The intricacy and scale of the mausoleum suggests that the people who built it possessed advanced knowledge of construction techniques. But how did they achieve such precision without the advanced tools or technology that we might expect from a culture of this period? The large stones used in the construction of the tomb are carefully cut and fitted, and the design of the structure is remarkably sophisticated. How did the builders of Medracen manage to achieve such feats of engineering with the limited resources available to them? Another question that arises is the purpose of the smaller structures surrounding the main tomb. These smaller buildings could have been part of the royal complex, possibly serving as dwellings for attendants or priests. Some have speculated that these buildings may have been used for ceremonial purposes, with rituals performed at the tomb site to honor the king and appease the gods. Was Medracen simply a burial site, or did it serve a broader role in the religious and political life of the Numidians? The ceremonial nature of the tomb, combined with its strategic location, suggests that it may have been a focal point for the surrounding community, a place where power and spirituality intersected. The surrounding area also raises more questions. Today, Medracen stands in relative isolation, surrounded by the vast, barren landscape of the Sahara. However, in ancient times, this region would have been a thriving hub of trade and culture, with people traveling from across North Africa and beyond. What role did Medracen play in the broader cultural and political context of the ancient world? Was it merely a tomb, or was it a place of pilgrimage, a site that drew people from across the ancient world to pay homage to the Numidian rulers and their gods? As with many ancient monuments, the purpose and meaning of Medracen remain elusive. The tomb's grandeur, the mystery of its occupant, and the unanswered questions surrounding its construction and use suggest that there may be much more to discover about this enigmatic site. Was Medracen a place of power, a spiritual center, or simply a final resting place for a forgotten king? The answers may lie buried beneath the sands, waiting to be uncovered by future generations of explorers and archaeologists. What secrets might still be hidden within the walls of Medracen? What does this mysterious tomb tell us about the people who built it and the civilization they left behind? As we continue to peel back the layers of history, one thing is clear. The mystery of Medracen is far from solved, and its secrets may still be waiting to reveal themselves to those who dare to ask the right questions. After exploring the enigmatic tombs of the Numidian kings, we now turn our attention to a starkly different kind of mystery. One that stretches out across the arid expanse of the Atacama Desert in northern Chile, where the sun beats relentlessly on a land as old as time itself. Here, on a plateau near the town of San Pedro de Atacama, lies a strange and hauntingly solitary figure, El Gigante de Atacama, or the Atacama Giant, a geoglyph that has puzzled archaeologists, historians, and explorers alike for centuries. This enormous figure, etched into the desert floor, stretches an impressive 119 meters in length, making it one of the largest known geoglyphs in the world. The Atacama Giant is unmistakably human in form, with a head, outstretched arms, and a distinctly drawn body, yet the scale and purpose of the figure remain a profound mystery. What could have inspired a civilization, one that thrived in a harsh, unforgiving desert, to create such a monumental and striking image? And why, in this remote and inhospitable region, was such a figure carved into the earth, where only the gods and the sky might see it? As the winds blow across the desert, the Atacama Giant stands in quiet solitude, seemingly a relic from another time, a time when the vastness of the landscape was both a source of reverence and a mysterious canvas for artistic expression. The geoglyph itself is crafted from the natural materials of the land, darker stones placed over lighter desert sands, creating a figure that contrasts sharply with the surrounding earth. From a distance, the lines are almost imperceptible, but from a higher vantage point, perhaps from the cliffs that overlook the plateau, the shape becomes strikingly clear. The Atacama Giant is believed to have been created by the indigenous Atacameño people who lived in this region long before the arrival of the Spanish. The geoglyph is estimated to have been created sometime between 1000 BCE and 1400 BCE, placing it in the early stages of the Andean civilization's development. Its placement on a hill overlooking the surrounding desert suggests that it may have had both symbolic and ceremonial significance, possibly linked to the spiritual practices of the people who lived here. Unlike the Nazca lines, another famous geoglyph site in Peru, the Atacama Giant is not part of a broader network of designs. It stands alone, solitary, as though the figure is frozen in time, awaiting someone, or something, to decipher its meaning. While the Nazca lines are thought to have had astronomical or religious purposes, the Atacama Giant raises more questions than answers. Why a single monumental figure? Why this particular location, with its remote and harsh environment? Was the figure intended to honor a deity or a powerful leader? Or could it represent a godlike being whose connection to the desert landscape transcended human understanding? Theories about the figure's purpose abound, but none provide a definitive answer. Some scholars have suggested that the Atacama Giant is a representation of a divine being, perhaps a god or a celestial figure, that the Atacameño people worshipped or venerated. The idea that the giant is a manifestation of a deity is not far-fetched. After all, many ancient cultures created similar large-scale figures for religious or spiritual purposes. The fact that the Atacama Giant faces toward the sky, and that it is located in a region known for its connection to astronomical observation, lends some weight to this theory. Others have proposed that the geoglyph could have served as a boundary marker, or as a way of demarcating territory. The Atacama Desert, while barren and desolate today, was once home to thriving cultures who traded and interacted with neighboring civilizations. Perhaps the figure was a symbol of power, marking the edges of an influential community, or an attempt to leave a lasting imprint on the land, one that would be visible from afar. There are also more speculative theories. Some have drawn comparisons between the Atacama Giant and other ancient depictions of giants and gods in different cultures around the world. Could there be a connection between this figure and the widespread myths of giant beings that populate the legends of so many cultures across time and space? Is it possible that the Atacameño people were aware of similar figures in distant lands, Or did their beliefs spring from a common, shared human experience with the divine? Could this giant be evidence of an ancient, forgotten religion, one that tied the people of the desert to forces far beyond their understanding? Despite the many theories, the purpose of the Atacama giant remains elusive. The region itself adds to the air of mystery that surrounds the geoglyph. The Atacama Desert is one of the driest places on Earth, with some areas receiving less than 1 millimeter of rain per year. Its desolate beauty has inspired countless explorers, yet it also has a way of swallowing up the past, leaving little behind except the traces of human existence carved into the landscape. How many ancient structures, artworks, or monuments lie hidden beneath the sands of the Atacama, waiting to be uncovered? One of the most curious aspects of the Atacama giant is its enduring preservation. The dry climate of the region has helped to preserve the geoglyph for thousands of years, allowing us to glimpse into a distant past that might otherwise have been lost. In some ways, the figure seems timeless, untouched by the ravages of time. Yet, in another sense, the mystery of its creation has only deepened with the passing centuries. How did the Atacameño people, without the advanced tools and technology we have today, manage to create such a monumental figure, one that has withstood the elements for so long? Did they possess knowledge of engineering or mathematics that we have yet to fully understand? In addition to the mysterious origins of the Atacama giant itself, the surrounding landscape also holds its own peculiarities. Scattered throughout the Atacama Desert are other geoglyphs and markers, some simple and others more elaborate, yet none match the scale or singularity of the Atacama giant. This raises a fascinating question. Why was this one figure so much more prominent and isolated? What did it signify to the people who created it, and why did they choose to carve it into the land with such remarkable care and effort? Was it a solitary figure, or part of a wider belief system, lost to time? The Atacama giant, standing alone in the arid desert, invites us to reflect on the passage of time and the cultures that once thrived in this unforgiving landscape. What ancient truths are hidden in the vast stretches of sand and rock, obscured by the winds of time? What knowledge did the Atacameño people possess that we have yet to uncover? And what does the creation of such a monumental figure say about their worldview and their connection to the land, the sky, and the divine? As we continue to explore the bizarre and haunting mysteries of the ancient world, the Atacama giant remains one of the most enigmatic and captivating symbols of a time long past. While we may never fully understand its origins or its purpose, the figure continues to stand as a silent testament to the ingenuity and spiritual depth of the people who once called the Atacama Desert home. And perhaps, in the quiet expanse of this ancient land, there are still secrets waiting to be uncovered, waiting to tell their story. As we move from the vast, open deserts of the Atacama, our journey now brings us to the mist-covered coast of Brittany, France, where the rugged cliffs meet the unforgiving sea. In the farthest reaches of this ancient land, on a quiet hilltop near the village of Cairnpapple, stands a remarkable and mysterious structure, le Cairn of Barnenez. This monumental tomb, built more than 6,000 years ago, is one of the oldest megalithic structures in Europe, and like many ancient sites, its true purpose and the people who created it remain shrouded in mystery. The Cairn of Barnenez, a colossal burial mound, is unlike any other burial site found in the region. Its size alone is striking, stretching over 70 meters in length and rising up to 10 meters in height. It commands the landscape with an undeniable presence. From a distance, it appears as though a great natural hill has been formed by centuries of wind and rain. Yet, as you approach, the carefully stacked stones and the organized layout of the cairn reveal that this is no ordinary hill. It is a structure deliberately shaped, a tomb built by an unknown society thousands of years ago. The cairn is an extraordinary feat of ancient engineering. Constructed from enormous stones, many of which weigh several tons each, The site features multiple chambers and passages that wind through the heart of the mound. Inside, the remains of ancient burial practices can still be found, though much has been lost to time. The stones, arranged with remarkable precision, form a complex network of corridors and rooms, each one intricately designed to house the remains of the deceased. When first discovered, the cairn was found to contain a series of burial niches, suggesting that it was used not for just one individual, but for an entire community. Some of these chambers contained human remains, while others held offerings, tools, pottery, and personal items that the ancient people believed would accompany the dead in the afterlife. These burial practices point to a deep reverence for the dead, as well as a sophisticated understanding of life and death. But who were the people behind this creation? And why did they construct such an elaborate burial site in this particular location? The age of the Cairn of Barnenez places it squarely in the Neolithic period, at a time when human societies were beginning to shift from nomadic lifestyles to settled farming communities. This transition to permanent settlement and the associated advancements in agriculture led to the development of increasingly complex social structures. The construction of large tombs like Barnenez is evidence of this growing complexity. But what does the size and scale of Barnenez suggest about the people who built it? Was this just the tomb of an important leader or a small elite group? Or was it a communal effort built for an entire society to honor their ancestors? The answer to these questions is still uncertain. The placement of the cairn is also intriguing. Situated on a hilltop with sweeping views of the sea and the surrounding landscape, the cairn seems to have been deliberately positioned to dominate the region. Was this strategic location chosen for its visibility, as a way to mark the land for future generations, or was there a more spiritual or astronomical reason behind it? Some researchers have suggested that the cairn's alignment with the landscape may have had symbolic meaning, perhaps linked to the movements of the sun or the stars. Could the cairn have been intended as a place where the living could communicate with the dead or the gods? Or was it merely a landmark, marking the boundary between the world of the living and the realm of the spirits? The materials used to construct Barnenez also raise fascinating questions. The stones that make up the cairn were transported from quarries located several kilometers away, and their precise shaping and arrangement suggest a highly skilled workforce. How did these ancient people move and manipulate such large stones, some weighing as much as 10 tons? The answer, while still debated, hints at a level of engineering knowledge that was far ahead of what we would expect for the time. Were the builders of Barnenez using techniques we've since forgotten? Or was there a more practical explanation for how they achieved such feats of construction? Interestingly, Barnenez is not the only megalithic tomb of its kind in Brittany. Throughout the region, similar burial mounds can be found, each with its own unique features and designs. Yet Barnenez stands out for its sheer size and the complexity of its interior chambers. Could it be that Barnenez was the culmination of a long tradition of megalithic building in the region? Or was it a singular creation, built for reasons known only to the people who lived there? Adding to the mystery of the Cairn of Barnenez is the fact that it was largely forgotten for much of history. The cairn was rediscovered only in the 1950s, after centuries of neglect. Over the years, much of the structure had been eroded by the forces of nature, and many of the burial chambers had been looted or destroyed. The remaining stones are all that remain, standing as a testament to a civilization whose name has been lost to history. Who were the people who built this enormous structure, and why was it abandoned? Was the cairn part of a larger cultural or religious movement, or was it the product of a single, isolated society? Despite years of study, many questions about the cairn remain unanswered. The lack of written records from the time of its construction means that we can only speculate about its true purpose. Some researchers have suggested that the cairn may have had a more ceremonial or ritualistic function, perhaps serving as a place for annual gatherings or religious ceremonies. Others believe that it could have been a symbol of power, a monument to a particular ruler or ruling family. But the truth, as with so many ancient mysteries, may lie somewhere in between, or may be entirely different than what we can imagine. What is perhaps most intriguing about the Cairn of Barnenez is its enduring mystery. Despite the centuries that have passed, the cairn remains a powerful and evocative symbol of an ancient past. The complexity and size of the structure suggest that it was an important site for the people who built it, yet the reasons behind its creation are still elusive. Was it a place of power, a spiritual center, or simply a final resting place for the dead? The cairn's silent presence on the hilltop raises more questions than answers, and its mysteries may remain unsolved for years to come. As we stand before this towering monument, we are reminded of the vastness of history and the many secrets that still lie hidden beneath the surface. The Cairn of Barnenez may never fully reveal its purpose or the people who built it, but it continues to stand as a reminder of the ingenuity, the beliefs, and the rituals of those who lived long before us. And perhaps, in its silent form, it holds even more mysteries waiting to be uncovered in the future. What secrets does it still conceal, waiting to be unearthed? And what might we learn about the ancient past if we are willing to dig a little deeper into the sands of time? As we shift from the windswept coastline of Brittany, our journey takes us to the heart of southern Spain, where a quiet and ancient landscape holds a lesser-known but equally fascinating mystery. El Dolmen de Soto, a prehistoric burial site that sits on the outskirts of the village of Soto, in the province of Jaén. This megalithic structure, hidden away from the bustling roads and cities of modern-day Spain, holds secrets that date back thousands of years. Yet it remains shrouded in mystery, its true significance still largely unknown. The Dolmen de Soto, like other dolmens throughout Europe, is a type of burial chamber built by the ancient peoples of the Iberian Peninsula during the late Neolithic and early Bronze Age. This dolmen is made up of large, flat stones, some weighing several tons, that have been carefully arranged to form a small enclosed chamber with an entrance that faces outward, as though it were inviting the elements to pass through. The dolmen itself is partially underground, with a mound of earth and stones placed over it to create a burial cairn. When viewed from a distance, it is easy to overlook the site as just another small stone structure nestled among the olive groves and rolling hills. But as you approach, a sense of awe begins to take hold, for this structure, though seemingly simple, bears the marks of ancient hands that shaped it for a purpose long forgotten. Unlike the larger, more well-known dolmens scattered throughout Spain, such as those in Antequera or the famous megalithic complex at Karnak, the Dolmen de Soto remains relatively untouched by modern development. Its isolation adds to the air of mystery that surrounds it, creating a sense of timelessness that seems to transcend the centuries. The dolmen is built with great care, with massive stones placed in such a way that they fit together perfectly, without the use of mortar or adhesives. The precision of the construction suggests that those who built it possessed a deep understanding of geometry and engineering, despite the lack of advanced tools. The alignment of the dolmen, too, raises intriguing questions. Its entrance faces a particular direction, toward the rising sun on the horizon, hinting at a connection between the monument and the celestial world. The purpose of the Dolmen de Soto is the subject of ongoing debate. It is widely accepted that it was used as a burial site, as were other dolmens in the region, but there are still many unanswered questions about how this particular site was used and by whom. The chamber itself is relatively small, and archaeologists have uncovered a variety of grave goods buried alongside the deceased, including pottery, tools, and other offerings. These items suggest that the people who used the dolmen were part of a complex society with distinct cultural practices, and that they believed in some form of life after death, perhaps hoping that the offerings would accompany the soul into the afterlife. The choice of the site for such a burial is particularly significant. The dolmen lies at a high point on the landscape, providing a sweeping view of the surrounding valley. Was this a symbolic location chosen for its proximity to the heavens? Or was it simply a practical choice, offering a place of prominence for the deceased, with a clear view of the land they once inhabited? While the exact identity of the people who built the Dolmen de Soto remains uncertain, it is believed that they were part of the wider Iberian Neolithic culture, which spread across the region between 2500 BC and 1500 BC. These people were transitioning from a purely hunter-gatherer lifestyle to one that included agriculture and permanent settlement. The construction of such monumental burial sites suggests that they had a strong social hierarchy and an organized labor force. But beyond this, the specifics of their beliefs, their customs, and their daily lives remain largely a mystery. What drove them to create such enduring structures? Was it simply a means of honoring the dead, or was there a more profound spiritual or religious significance behind these burial chambers? One of the most compelling aspects of the Dolmen de Soto is the way it fits into a larger pattern of megalithic structures scattered across southern Spain. These dolmens, often part of complex burial mounds, are found throughout the region and share similar architectural features. Yet, while they share many characteristics, no two dolmens are identical. Each one seems to have its own distinctive features, slightly different construction techniques, unique carvings, or particular orientations that suggest they were not created by a single monolithic culture, but by a series of different groups, each with their own beliefs and traditions. The Dolmen de Soto, with its simple yet imposing presence, stands as a testament to the craftsmanship of the people who built it. But it also raises questions about the cultural exchange between these groups. Were these people aware of the larger, ongoing construction of megalithic sites in other parts of the Iberian Peninsula? Did they share knowledge of the techniques used to build these structures? Or were these practices passed down through generations, evolving over time into the unique structures we see today? Further adding to the mystery is the fact that the Dolmen de Soto has been subjected to little in the way of formal excavation. Much of what is known about the site comes from surface observations and the occasional study by archaeologists and historians. The burial chambers themselves have been looted in the distant past, and the stones have weathered under the harsh conditions of the Iberian climate. What lies beneath the surface, hidden away from the modern world? What more could be uncovered about the rituals and beliefs of those who used this site? These questions remain unanswered, leaving the Dolmen de Soto to stand as a silent witness to an ancient past. One of the more intriguing aspects of the Dolmen de Soto is its possible connection to the larger prehistoric landscape. Nearby, other megalithic structures can be found, including menhirs and other dolmens, many of which are aligned with the cycles of the sun and moon. Could the Dolmen de Soto have been part of a larger ceremonial landscape, one that was designed to track celestial events or mark important seasonal changes? The orientation of the dolmen, facing a particular direction, suggests that it could have been used in rituals tied to the movements of the sun or the stars. Was the dolmen a place where the living came to pay respects to the dead? Or was it a site for more elaborate ceremonies, such as seasonal celebrations or astronomical observations? Without more evidence, it is difficult to say for certain. What is most striking about the Dolmen de Soto is the way it forces us to confront the limitations of our knowledge. Despite the advances in archaeology, we are still left with more questions than answers. The stones, the grave goods, and the position of the dolmen in the landscape all point to a society with sophisticated beliefs and practices. But what those practices were, and how they connected to the broader world of the ancient Mediterranean, remains largely speculative. Was the Dolmen of Soto just a place to bury the dead, or was it something more? A spiritual center, a ceremonial site, or a symbol of power? The Dolmen of Soto continues to stand as a symbol of the mysterious and often elusive nature of ancient history. It reminds us that, while we may uncover the physical remnants of the past, the deeper meanings behind these structures may always remain just out of reach, waiting to be discovered, or perhaps never to be fully understood. The dolmen's silence speaks volumes, inviting us to wonder what secrets still lie buried beneath the stones, waiting for the right questions to be asked. As we leave behind the rugged hills of southern Spain, we turn our gaze across the vast, arid expanse of the American Southwest, where another mystery waits to be uncovered, one that remains as elusive as the desert winds themselves. In the Four Corners region, where the boundaries of Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona meet, a forgotten civilization once thrived. The Anasazi, or ancestral Puebloans, are remembered for their stunning cliff dwellings and intricate ceremonial sites. But perhaps their greatest enigma lies in their sudden and unexplained disappearance. The landscape around the cliff dwellings of Mesa Verde, Chaco Canyon, and the ruins of Canyon de Chelly is as striking as it is haunting. Towering sandstone cliffs, deep canyons, and expansive mesas stretch out beneath a sky that seems endless. In the midst of this seemingly barren wilderness, the Anasazi built impressive multi-story dwellings that clung to the sides of cliffs, their stone walls carved into the very rock. These structures, some of which are still remarkably well preserved, suggest a sophisticated, organized society, one with a deep understanding of engineering, agriculture, and astronomy. At the height of their civilization, the Anasazi were thought to have populated vast areas, from the Colorado Plateau to the Chaco Canyon, building extensive networks of roads and trading routes that connected hundreds of communities. Their architecture was both functional and symbolic, with sites like Chaco Canyon serving as hubs for trade, politics, and ritual. The Anasazi were farmers, cultivating maize, beans, and squash in the arid soil, and their ability to adapt to the harsh desert environment speaks to their ingenuity and resourcefulness. Yet, despite their remarkable accomplishments, their civilization mysteriously disappeared around the end of the 12th century, leaving behind only their ruins and unanswered questions. What happened to the Anasazi? Why did a thriving, complex society simply vanish, leaving behind no written records, no definitive explanation? The answer is not as simple as climate change, though that theory has been proposed time and time again. While drought and resource depletion are often cited as factors, the true cause of their disappearance remains a subject of intense debate. Some archaeologists believe that the Anasazi were forced to abandon their cliff dwellings due to prolonged droughts that made agriculture unsustainable. These periods of intense drought, which are recorded in tree ring data from ancient trees, may have dried up water sources and devastated crops, leading to starvation and migration. However, this explanation does not fully account for the suddenness with which the Anasazi abandoned their most important sites. Why did they leave so quickly? And why did they not return, even after the climate began to stabilize? There are also suggestions that social unrest, political upheaval, or even warfare may have played a role in the downfall of the Anasazi. Some evidence points to violent conflict among different Anasazi communities, as well as with neighboring tribes. The archaeological record reveals signs of conflict at several major Anasazi sites, including the presence of defensive walls and evidence of burned structures. Was this a society that collapsed under the weight of its own success, torn apart by internal strife? Or were they forced out by external forces, driven from their homes by invaders or rival factions? Still, others have speculated that the Anasazi's disappearance could have been caused by more mysterious forces, perhaps even a spiritual or religious upheaval. The Anasazi were deeply connected to the land and the cosmos, and their religious practices were woven into the fabric of their daily lives. Some researchers have suggested that their sudden departure might have been driven by a profound spiritual crisis, perhaps in response to perceived disruptions in the natural world or a failure to connect with their deities. The collapse of their civilization could, in this theory, have been a result of a shift in belief systems or an attempt to escape an imagined crisis of the spirit. Yet another theory proposes that the Anasazi didn't disappear at all, but rather simply integrated into other nearby cultures. Evidence of this hypothesis can be found in the archaeological remains of other southwestern Native American groups, such as the Hopi and Zuni, who are sometimes cited as descendants of the Anasazi. Could it be that the Anasazi didn't vanish but rather evolved, adopting new ways of life and new identities as they moved away from the cliff dwellings to more traditional Pueblo settlements? If this is the case, why did they leave no record of this transition? Why did they abandon their distinctive architectural style and their ceremonial practices, many of which were so tightly bound to their previous way of life? While there are many theories, none of them provide a comprehensive explanation for the Anasazi disappearance. The fact remains that the Anasazi left behind no written records, and much of their culture, what they believed, how they lived, and why they chose to leave their homes, remains a mystery. What is clear, however, is that their impact on the American Southwest is undeniable. Their legacy lives on in the ruins they left behind, the art they created, and the architectural marvels that continue to captivate those who explore their ancient dwellings. The mystery of the Anasazi's disappearance extends beyond mere curiosity. It touches on broader themes about the fragility of human civilization. Could it be that, like the Anasazi, all societies, no matter how advanced or powerful, are subject to forces beyond their control? What happens when a society is faced with sudden, unforeseen challenges that overwhelm its ability to adapt or respond? The Anasazi left behind no warning, no explanation, and no clues about what led to their downfall. Instead, they simply disappeared, leaving a void that has remained unfilled for centuries. And yet, despite the centuries that have passed since their disappearance, the Anasazi continue to fascinate and intrigue. Their ruins still stand as silent reminders of a culture that once flourished in one of the harshest environments on Earth. The cliff dwellings, the roads, the pottery, and the ceremonial kivas all speak to a society that was sophisticated, creative, and deeply connected to the land they inhabited. But even now, we can only speculate about the true cause of their disappearance, and whether there might still be something hidden, something we've yet to uncover, that will explain the mystery. What caused the Anasazi to vanish so suddenly? Was it climate change, warfare, social unrest, or something else entirely? Could the answer lie in the patterns of the landscape, the alignment of the stars, or the unseen forces of nature that shaped their world? Or perhaps, like many ancient mysteries, the truth will remain elusive, forever locked away in the silence of the desert, waiting for us to uncover its secrets. As the wind continues to sweep across the canyon walls and the sun sets over the forgotten ruins, the mystery of the Anasazi endures, a puzzle with pieces that may never quite fit together. After delving into the mysteries of the Anasazi and their enigmatic disappearance, we now turn our attention to another ancient wonder, one that exists within the misty hills of Wales, where the past is carefully hidden beneath the earth, and where the dead seem to speak from long-forgotten tombs. The Bryn Celli Ddu burial mound, nestled on the island of Anglesey, stands as an enduring testament to a civilization whose beliefs and practices we may never fully understand. This mysterious site, over 5,000 years old, not only captures the imagination with its ancient structure, but also leaves us wondering why such a place was created in the first place. and what secrets it still holds beneath its stones. The name Bryn Celli Ddu translates to the Hill of the Dark Grove, a name that in itself evokes a sense of foreboding mystery. As you approach the site, a sense of reverence seems to settle in, as though you are crossing into a realm outside of time, a place where ancient rituals once took place. From the outside, the mound appears relatively modest, especially when compared to the colossal megalithic structures found in other parts of Europe. But as you step closer, the sense of something hidden becomes palpable. A small passageway leads you into the heart of the mound, a world sealed off for millennia. The tomb, built from large stone slabs, is a chambered cairn, a burial structure that was used for a variety of rituals and ceremonies during the Neolithic period. The cairn itself, though modest in height, is deceptively complex in design. Its structure points to a deep understanding of astronomy, with the main entrance aligned to catch the rays of the midsummer sunrise. The sunlight pours into the tomb on this day, illuminating the darkened stone walls and filling the small chamber with a soft, ethereal glow. It is a striking sight, one that invites questions about the builders' knowledge of the heavens and their understanding of the passage of time. While it may seem simple at first glance, Bryn Celli Ddu is a site filled with layers of history. The structure was built as a tomb for the elite, likely a chieftain or revered individual, but its design was not purely utilitarian. Its passageway, which connects the outer world with the chamber inside, is deliberately aligned with the rising sun on the summer solstice, suggesting that it had a ceremonial function as well. Was this tomb a place where the living came to honor the dead? Or was it a sacred site where the boundary between the two worlds was thought to be thin, a place where the past and future could be glimpsed in the light of the sun? The solar alignment suggests that those who built the tomb had an advanced understanding of the sun's movements and its importance in marking the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. It raises a question. Was Bryn Celli Ddu, with its precise alignment and unique design, meant as a place of spiritual connection, a place where the living could commune with the ancestors or the gods? The tomb itself is believed to have been used for multiple burials over time, and though the remains of the dead have long since been removed or destroyed, the artifacts and evidence left behind offer a glimpse into the world of the people who created it. Pottery, tools, and bones found at the site suggest that the people who used Bryn Celli Ddu practiced rituals related to death and rebirth. These items hint at a culture deeply connected to the land, to the rhythms of nature, and to the afterlife. But what was it about this particular site that made it so important? Why was this place chosen to house the dead? And what did it represent to the people who placed their dead here, generation after generation? Over time, Bryn Celli Ddu has been the subject of much archaeological study, yet many questions remain unanswered. For one, the site was not always as it is now. While the tomb itself was constructed with great care and effort, the mound was once much larger and more impressive. Early excavations revealed that much of the structure had been disturbed, and it is thought that later generations of people repurposed the site, either for different burial practices or, in some cases, for rituals that we have yet to fully understand. What happened to the mound over the centuries? Why did its importance seem to diminish over time? And what role did it play in the lives of those who came to this place, long after the builders had gone? One of the most compelling aspects of Bryn Celli Ddu is its connection to the broader megalithic culture of the British Isles. The stone structures that dot the landscape, from the well-known Stonehenge to the countless standing stones and burial chambers scattered throughout the land, are linked by their shared astronomical and religious significance. Were these structures all part of a larger religious or cultural movement, one that spread throughout the region, bringing with it a shared belief system? Or were they independent efforts created by different groups with unique traditions? Bryn Celli Ddu, with its astronomical alignment and its focus on the dead, suggests that it was not merely a place for burial, but a site for ritual, a place where the forces of nature and the afterlife could be accessed through carefully designed architectural features. Yet, for all the insights that archaeology has provided, Bryn Celli Ddu retains a sense of mystery that refuses to be solved. Some researchers have speculated that the site was part of a broader ceremonial landscape, with other megalithic sites forming a network of spiritual centers connected by rituals tied to the solar calendar. Were these sites used as part of a larger cosmological system, one that mapped the movements of the stars and the sun to the rhythms of human life? Or was Bryn Celli Ddu simply a reflection of the worldview of a small group of people, whose beliefs and practices have long since been lost to time? What role did this site play in the spiritual and social fabric of its society? Perhaps most fascinating of all is the idea that Bryn Celli Ddu may have been designed to communicate with the dead in ways that we have yet to understand. The alignment of the tomb with the sun suggests that the builders of Bryn Celli Ddu believed in the power of light to bridge the gap between the living and the dead. Was this a place where the spirits of ancestors were honored and consulted, or was it a gateway for the living to seek guidance from a higher power, perhaps even the gods themselves? The mystery of Bryn Celli Ddu remains as elusive as it is captivating. Despite the centuries that have passed since its construction, the site continues to provoke awe and wonder, leaving us with more questions than answers. The tomb, the alignment, the artifacts. Each piece of evidence seems to hint at something more, something hidden just beyond the reach of modern understanding. What secrets does this ancient site still hold? And what might we discover if we are willing to ask the right questions and search for the answers beneath the stones? The tomb of Bryn Celli Ddu remains a doorway into the past, a place where the shadows of the dead still linger, waiting to reveal their mysteries. Nestled on a hill overlooking the calm waters of the river Minho, where the land of Galicia meets the Atlantic Ocean, lies a site of quiet yet profound mystery, Castro de Santa Trega, a well-preserved hill fort that holds secrets of an ancient people who once called this rugged, wind-swept region home. At first glance, the site is deceptively peaceful, offering panoramic views across the river and the green hills beyond. The serenity of the present, however, belies the centuries of history and unanswered questions contained within this ancient stronghold. The Castro de Santa Trega is a castro, a type of fortified settlement built by the Celtic peoples of the Iberian Peninsula, dating back to the Iron Age. These castros were typically located on elevated positions, strategically chosen to provide both defense and a commanding view of the surrounding landscape. The fortifications at Santa Trega are no different, with thick stone walls and defensive structures that were once formidable barriers to potential invaders. Some of the original structures have been reconstructed, but many parts of the site still carry the wear of centuries, their stones weathered by time and the relentless force of nature. As you wander through the ruins, you can almost feel the weight of history pressing down on you, as though the spirits of those who once lived here are lingering, waiting to reveal their stories. The location of Castro de Santa Trega adds to its allure. Situated atop a steep hill, it was, in its time, an ideal vantage point for observing the surrounding valley and river. The site was occupied by the Celtiberians, an ancient Celtic tribe that lived in the region well before the arrival of the Romans. Archaeological evidence suggests that this was a thriving settlement, with a complex network of houses, communal spaces, and ritual areas. The remnants of circular stone houses, their foundations still visible, give us a glimpse into the domestic life of the people who once called this place home. But beyond the daily life of the settlers, there is a deeper, more mysterious side to Castro de Santa Trega, one that raises questions about the people who lived here, the rituals they practiced, and the meaning they attached to the landscape they inhabited. One of the most compelling aspects of the site is the presence of large stone altars and what appear to be religious or ceremonial spaces. These stones, some elaborately carved with symbols, suggest that the people of Castro de Santa Trega had a deep spiritual connection to their environment and possibly to the celestial forces they believed guided their lives. Did the people of this Castro worship the gods of the land and the sky, invoking their favor through rituals and offerings? Or was there a more intricate belief system at play, one that tied the seasons, the river, and the very earth to their spiritual practices? As with many ancient sites, the lack of written records leaves us to ponder these questions, drawing on the scattered clues left behind in the form of carvings, artifacts, and the layout of the settlement. The layout of Castro de Santa Trega itself is a subject of intrigue. The site appears to be laid out with great care and precision, almost as if it were designed to interact with the natural elements. Its hilltop position allows for sweeping views of the surrounding region, yet its strategic design, its terracing, its ramparts, and its carefully constructed entrances suggests that it was not only a defensive stronghold, but also a place where the people engaged in elaborate social and religious activities. Could it be that the Castro was a meeting place for different Celtic tribes, a nexus for trade, diplomacy, and ritual? Or was it a site reserved for the elite, with a select group of individuals presiding over the life of the settlement? One of the most fascinating and perplexing features of Castro de Santa Trega is the series of enigmatic stone structures scattered throughout the site. Some of these structures are simple in their design, but others are more complex, with large, carefully shaped stones that seem to have been arranged for a specific purpose. These arrangements have led to speculation that the site was not only a settlement, but also a sacred place, where rituals of great importance were conducted. Some researchers have proposed that the stones were used to align with celestial events, such as the solstices or equinoxes, further cementing the idea that the people of Santa Trega had an advanced understanding of the heavens. Could these stone arrangements have been used to mark important astronomical events? Were they designed as part of a larger ritualistic framework, perhaps to commune with the gods or celebrate the cycles of the seasons? While many of the questions surrounding Castro de Santa Trega are still unanswered, one thing is certain: the site holds a deeper significance than what is immediately visible. The Celtic peoples of the Iberian Peninsula were known for their intricate belief systems and their close ties to the natural world. It is likely that Castro de Santa Trega served as more than just a place of defense or settlement. It was a location where the boundaries between the human and the divine blurred, where the cycles of life and death, light and dark, were celebrated through ritual and ceremony. But what kind of rituals were conducted here? Was it purely a religious site, or did it serve as a political center as well? Some evidence suggests that the people of Castro de Santa Trega may have held complex social structures, with leaders or chieftains presiding over gatherings and decisions. Could this site have been the heart of a powerful confederation of tribes, each with its own beliefs, but united under the common banner of Celtic culture? As with many ancient sites, there is much about Castro de Santa Trega that remains speculative. The evidence that survives, stone tools, ceramics, and remnants of the architecture, provides a partial picture, but it is far from complete. The lack of written records from the period means that we must rely on the material remains to reconstruct the life and beliefs of the people who inhabited the Castro. And even then, many questions remain unanswered. The purpose of the stone altars, the meaning of the carvings, and the nature of the social and religious practices all elude us, leaving behind a mystery that has yet to be fully unraveled. What then can we truly know about Castro de Santa Trega? It is clear that the people who built and inhabited this site were not only skilled builders and warriors, but also people with a deep spiritual connection to the land they occupied. The alignment of the structures, the choice of location and the presence of ritual spaces suggest that they viewed their world as one where the physical and spiritual realms were intertwined. Could Castro de Santa Trega have been a place where the veil between the living and the divine was thin, where the people could communicate with forces beyond their understanding? Perhaps, like so many other ancient sites, Castro de Santa Trega will always hold a part of its mystery, never fully revealed. But that, in itself, is part of its allure. Its very presence in the landscape calls us to question, to ponder, and to imagine what the people of this ancient settlement believed and how they interacted with the world around them. In the quiet of the hilltop, the stones seem to hold their secrets close, waiting for the right moment to reveal the truths buried within. What mysteries remain hidden beneath these ancient stones? Only time may tell. Nestled amidst the sun-drenched hills of southern Spain lies La Bastida, an ancient site that, while often overshadowed by more famous archaeological locations, holds a story as intriguing as any of its more renowned counterparts. Located in the region of Murcia, this Bronze Age settlement is a haunting reminder of a once thriving civilization, now largely forgotten by time. Today, the site is a quiet, windswept expanse of stone walls and broken foundations. Yet within this barren landscape lies a complex and sophisticated system of defense, one that suggests the people who once inhabited La Bastida were far more advanced than we might assume for their time. As you approach La Bastida, the first thing that strikes you is the sheer scale of the fortifications. Built atop a hill overlooking the surrounding plain, the settlement was strategically located to monitor the surrounding area and control the routes that passed through it. The walls of the fort are massive, constructed from large, meticulously placed stones that form a formidable barrier against any would-be invaders. There are traces of a large defensive perimeter that once encircled the settlement, with multiple entrances designed to funnel people into carefully controlled choke points. What makes these defenses even more remarkable is their complexity. Layers of walls, towers, and watchtowers seem to have been built with an understanding of military strategy that goes beyond what is commonly expected from Bronze Age cultures. The walls themselves are not merely functional. They are a testament to the ingenuity of the civilization that built them. Unlike other contemporary settlements that relied on simple earthworks or basic stone structures, the defenses at La Bastida were made with a sense of purpose that seems almost futuristic. Some of the walls were built in a stepped pattern, perhaps to increase their strength or to prevent attackers from easily scaling them. Other parts of the walls were fortified with massive towers that provided elevated platforms for archers or lookouts, offering a tactical advantage to those defending the settlement. It is clear that La Bastida was not just a collection of houses and shops. It was a well-defended stronghold, built with an eye toward both protection and power. But who were the people who constructed these defenses, and why did they need such an elaborate system of fortifications? The settlement dates back to around 1800 BC, a time when much of the Iberian Peninsula was populated by diverse tribal groups, but it seems that the people of La Bastida were particularly adept at building powerful and resilient communities. The discovery of several large storage pits and evidence of extensive trade networks points to a society that was thriving economically, yet one that was also keenly aware of the threat of conflict. Was La Bastida built in response to external pressures, such as invading tribes or a growing sense of territorial competition? Or was the need for these defenses a result of internal strife, with powerful factions vying for dominance within the settlement itself? As intriguing as the walls and towers are, they are only one part of the mystery surrounding La Bastida. The settlement's layout suggests that the people who lived here had a sophisticated understanding of urban planning. The central area of the settlement contains evidence of public spaces, large communal structures, and what appear to be religious or ceremonial areas. The design of these structures, coupled with the strategic placement of the defenses, hints at a society that placed great importance on order, hierarchy, and control. Were these people simply concerned with survival, or did they have a more complex worldview that required them to structure their society in such a precise way? Perhaps most intriguing of all is the presence of what may be the earliest known use of fortified gateways in the Iberian Peninsula. At the entrance to La Bastida, the walls narrow, funneling would-be visitors through a small, heavily guarded passage. This defensive feature, while simple, suggests a society that was keenly aware of the dangers of open access. Was the narrow gateway designed to protect against invaders? Or was it meant to control the flow of people and resources within the settlement itself? The possibility that La Bastida's walls served not only as a defense, but as a means of social control, raises important questions about the nature of life in this ancient community. Adding another layer of mystery to the site is the enigmatic figure of the Osso de Bastida, or Bear of Bastida, a sculpted stone figure found near the settlement whose meaning and purpose remain a subject of speculation. Some archaeologists suggest that the figure may have had religious significance, representing a guardian spirit or a deity associated with strength and protection. Others believe it may have been a symbol of the tribe's connection to nature, or a totemic object used in ceremonial rituals. Whatever its true purpose, the presence of this carving suggests that the people of La Bastida were deeply connected to the spiritual and natural world, and that their beliefs may have been closely tied to their physical environment. Yet despite all the intrigue that La Bastida offers, we are still left with many unanswered questions. The reasons behind the construction of such an imposing defensive system remain unclear. Were these people simply trying to protect their wealth and resources from external threats? Or were they preparing for something more complex, such as an impending war with neighboring tribes or a shift in the political landscape? The evidence of trade and interaction with distant communities suggests that La Bastida was a significant hub in a broader network of societies, but it is unclear whether these interactions were peaceful or marked by conflict. Moreover, while the site's defense structures are impressive, they also raise questions about the eventual fate of the settlement. Given the sophistication of their defenses, why would the people of La Bastida abandon their hilltop stronghold? Did they fall victim to a siege, or was their society simply overtaken by external forces? Or did they leave voluntarily, perhaps in search of new opportunities, or due to changes in the region's climate and environment? The reasons for La Bastida's eventual decline remain just as mysterious as the reasons behind its rise. What is certain is that La Bastida was not a mere collection of isolated stone walls. It was a thriving, organized society that understood the need for protection, order, and control. The complex defenses, the layout of the settlement, and the evidence of trade and spiritual practices all point to a community that was as multifaceted as it was mysterious. And yet, for all that we have uncovered, much of the story remains hidden beneath the layers of stone. La Bastida's defensive structures serve as a reminder that the past is never as straightforward as it seems. Beneath the surface of every archaeological site lies a complex network of choices, events, and human experiences that have been lost to time. What exactly happened at La Bastida? Was it a society founded on fear of external threats, or was there a deeper, more intricate system of beliefs at play? And what became of the people who once called this fortified settlement home? These questions remain unanswered, leaving us to wonder what other mysteries lie buried beneath the stones of La Bastida, waiting to be uncovered. Perhaps, in time, new discoveries will shed light on the ancient civilization that built these walls. Until then, La Bastida remains a place of silent contemplation, its defensive structures standing as the only testimony to the people who once lived there. An enduring enigma, one that invites us to explore its many layers and to ponder the mysteries of a civilization that has long since vanished into history. As the sun sets over the highlands of southern Peru, casting long shadows over the vast arid landscape, one of the most fascinating and mysterious sights in the Andes emerges. Silistani, a place where the land meets the heavens, is home to a series of ancient burial towers that have both mystified and captivated those who have come upon them. The site, perched on a windswept peninsula jutting into Lake Umayo, offers a breathtaking view of the surrounding mountains and lake. But beyond its beauty lies an enigma, an archaeological puzzle that has puzzled scholars, historians, and archaeologists for centuries. The Silistani burial towers, also known as chulpas, stand as silent sentinels to a long-lost culture that once thrived in the region. These towering stone structures are unlike any other ancient burial site in the world. Their cylindrical form rises abruptly from the earth, some reaching heights of 12 meters or more, constructed from massive, precisely cut stones that fit together without the use of mortar. The most striking feature of these structures is their sheer scale and the quality of their construction. The stones are finely cut, and their weight, some of them weighing several tons, suggests an advanced knowledge of stoneworking that seems to defy the technological capabilities of the time. How were these ancient people able to cut and transport such massive stones to such remote locations? And why did they build these grand burial towers in the first place? The chulpas were used as tombs by the Capac, the elite rulers and nobles of the Colla culture, which flourished in the Andean highlands before the rise of the Inca Empire. The towers were designed to house the remains of important individuals, and they were often accompanied by offerings and artifacts, including pottery, textiles, and even mummified remains. The precise purpose of these tombs remains a subject of speculation. Were the chulpas simply burial sites, or did they serve a deeper, more spiritual purpose? Did these towers serve as monumental symbols of the power and prestige of the Colla elites? Or were they designed to connect the living to the spirit world, creating a gateway for the departed to communicate with the gods? As one walks among the Silistani burial towers, it is impossible not to be struck by the sheer mystery of their design. The chulpas vary in size and shape, some appearing simple and unadorned, while others feature intricate carvings and decorative elements. The most famous of these towers, known as the Torre de los Muertos, Tower of the Dead, stands as an imposing, cylindrical structure that seems to draw the eyes upward towards the sky. This tower is particularly unique in that it contains a small, perfectly round hole at its apex, a feature that has led many to wonder whether it had an astronomical or symbolic function. Was this hole intended to align with the sun or the stars during certain times of the year, creating a connection between the earthly and the celestial realms, or was it simply a structural feature that helped to balance the weight of the towering stone walls? The construction techniques used at Silistani are another source of fascination. The precision with which the stones were cut and fit together, without the use of mortar, suggests an advanced understanding of engineering and architecture. How did these ancient people manage to transport and lift such heavy stones? Were there advanced tools and techniques that have since been lost to history, or did they possess knowledge of construction methods that we have yet to fully understand? There are no written records to explain the methods used, leaving us to speculate based on the physical evidence that remains. Beyond the physical construction of the chulpas, there is also the mystery of the people who built them. Who were the Capac rulers, and what drove them to create such monumental tombs? The Colla culture, which thrived in the Andean region long before the rise of the Inca Empire, is only partially understood. Archaeological evidence suggests that the Colla people were skilled farmers and traders, with a deep understanding of the land and its resources. But what else can we learn from the chulpas? Could they have been more than just tombs? Could they have been centers for ritual or religious practices, used to honor the gods and the ancestors? The presence of offerings and ceremonial objects within the tombs suggests that the Capac elite believed in an afterlife, and that the tombs were designed to ensure that their spirits were properly cared for in the next world. Some archaeologists have even suggested that the chulpas were part of a larger ceremonial landscape, connected to other sacred sites in the region. If this is the case, what might the Silistani site have represented in the broader spiritual and cultural context of the ancient Andes? Did the Kapak rulers see themselves as intermediaries between the gods and the people? Were the chulpas not just tombs, but also symbols of divine authority, marking the rulers' connection to the spiritual world and their control over the earthly realm? Despite the tantalizing clues left behind in the form of these towering structures, much of the history of Silistani remains shrouded in mystery. The Kapak rulers and their culture are long gone, swallowed by the rise of the Inca Empire and the passage of time. Yet the chulpas remain, standing as silent witnesses to an ancient world that has all but vanished. Some theories suggest that the Kala people were absorbed into the Inca Empire, their culture and practices slowly fading away. But what role did Silistani play in the larger tapestry of Andean civilization? Was it a thriving political and spiritual center, or was it a more isolated site, known only to a select few? And what of the unusual features of the tombs themselves? Are there hidden meanings behind the arrangement of the stones, or is it simply a matter of practical construction? In recent years, there have been attempts to uncover more about the purpose and significance of the Silistani burial towers, including advanced methods of excavation and scientific analysis. But despite these efforts, the full story of this ancient site remains elusive. Could new discoveries unlock the secrets of the chulpas and provide more insight into the lives and beliefs of the Kola people? Or will these towers continue to stand in quiet solitude, their mysteries forever sealed within the stones? Perhaps the most intriguing question of all is whether the answers to these mysteries will ever be fully revealed. As we gaze upon the Silistani burial towers, silent, enduring, and shrouded in the mist of the past, we are left to wonder what other secrets are hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered. What ancient knowledge and rituals have been lost to time, and what remains for us to discover? The mystery of Silistani endures, and as long as these towering structures stand, they will continue to draw us in, inviting us to seek the answers to questions that may never be fully understood.